The Joe Rogan Experience.
The scary part,
Didn't you tell me those UFOs
That's
that they
what we're
found?
saying.
They were actually drones, Russian and China drones, they think?
They think.
Do you know when I think you
Which one? The
posted.
David for ones that they found in fucking San Diego that went from like 60 feet above the water to
Drones, son.
60,000.
Drone.
No.
They're saying they're Russian, Asian drones.
They don't even know what the propulsion system of these things
Well, that's what the
is.
government...
Fuckers, you're coming after us for this bullshit. You guys are doing the same shit.
If that is a drone that Commander Fravor saw, that's off the coast of San Diego, where they scrambled to go meet this thing. It was hovering over the water. It moved so fast they could barely track it.
Chinese
it
drone.
Violated all sorts of laws of propulsion and speed.
No, well,
not necessarily aliens. They
It
don't
could
know
be a
what
drone.
the fuck.
It could be a drone.
They don't know what the fuck it is. But here's the thing: the people that are at the front of the line of propulsion don't understand it. This is why it's confusing. The only way they'd be able to make this in secret. Scientists, the way they work is one scientist's paper influences the work of another scientist. They figure things out together. They're all in coordination.
That's cool.
Because they have to exchange information because one guy can't be the fucking guy who lives in the middle of the mountain that's a super genius like in Ex Machina who makes his own people and no one else is aware.
Yes.
In the real world,
Also like
those
the Unabomber.
scientists all work with a bunch of other scientists.
Huge
They have
projects.
to.
Yeah, huge
so
projects.
there's not going to be a thing that just sneaks up on someone that's that monumental where it just gets built.
And
and
all of them were like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
But, Brian, am I going batshit crazy? They tell us it was
That's
drones.
what they said, yeah.
Okay.
Listen, Ray, that they don't understand.
When's the last time you flew a drone?
People, good point. But the people that understand propulsion know that there's got to be something that makes them go. There's no heat signature.
Yeah, there's
no
nothing.
there's
Sounds
no
like a
jet coming out of
hologram.
the
You know when
back.
you have that red pointer and you
they're
play with your cat?
tracing it. They're
You know?
tracing it on radar.
Yeah, they don't
They're
know how it's
tracing it on
moving.
all these
They don't know
different.
what's
Maybe holograms have come up on
all these
radar.
weapon systems that they use to lock in on physical targets.
The heat doesn't even come out. Yeah, it's
Gotta be
crazy.
alien.
And it moves on radar faster than they can. And they've got video of this thing. They
What
got this,
did Elon Musk say?
infrared video.
Star
I
Wars.
didn't talk to him about it.
How dare
Did now that you brought it up, I feel like I fucked up.
Gedalia,
Him.
You know he knows.
Dude, you're right. He probably has his own weirdo theater.
Or he's
probably
like,
got a
actually, I
theory.
have one of those drones, Joe.
It's probably him.
And then
It's probably
brings it
fun.
here next
That's
time.
what he does instead of sleeping.
Yes.
He has to pretend he's sleeping.
Yes.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
Well, that's a good thing. That's the more sensitive you are, though, the more you have to consider all the possibilities, and that's what could keep you up.
Right,
Does
or
sleep
send
like
you
a
down
brick.
the UFO wormhole. Right.
We talked about that right before the podcast. Yeah, there's this guy that's coming on. His name's Dr. Robert Schock, and he's a geologist from Boston University. And he's worked on, there's some real scientists that believe it's entirely possible that the Sphinx and a lot of the construction in Egypt is far older than they think there is.
I know all about this.
Do you know all this?
I know
Okay.
all
Do
about
you know
the
Robert
rain
Schock?
runoff and
Yes,
how much
yes.
erosion has occurred around the
Yes.
base or around the pit that
Mm-hmm.
and it absolutely couldn't have been done depending on like the way the Sphinx is built, where it's located, the siting,
Yeah.
where its level is far older. So
Yes, it was somewhere in the neighborhood of 9,000 plus BC, because that's when back then the Nile Valley was a rainforest and somehow or another became a desert. And this guy's legit Boston University professor, geologist. And he's traveling all over the place, but he's here for some UFO conference, and the UFO people wanted him to mention the UFO conference, and I'm like, fucking Christ with UFO conferences. You guys don't have anything. If you had something, it would be, what are you going to get together in a fucking Marriott somewhere and show some blurry picture of some fucking hubcap that someone chucked up into the air? Like, there's nothing. Everything that they look at falls apart under scrutiny. There's like a few videos.
Okay, I'm going to back on
Please
this.
Please do.
Let's just say, what about, do you know the Disclosure?
Yes, Disclosure Project. Yes.
Okay, there was their first press conference when they got all the, I tend to be impressed by the military, ranking members. I'm sort of like, if you were guarding missile silos and you say you saw something hover above it and deactivate, I'm probably going to check that out a little harder. And there were just so many people that stood up, in that press conference and said that they absolutely had seen evidence, met extraterrestrials, seen the crafts, like in hangars, etc.
Yep.
And to me, they didn't look like they had that much imagination. They're the kind of people that I didn't think could really. I mean, did you find that convincing at all?
No. Here's why.
No, they're
the
just
guy
like a
who did
whole bunch of liars, a whole line
That's
of liars.
Stephen, right? The Disclosure Project
It's
is
not
Stephen
so much
Greer's
about
thing.
him.
Yeah.
He doesn't appeal as much as the people that he brought on, who were mostly military guys.
The thing about military, anybody who's in the military is a person. If you get 100 people together, one of them's out of their fucking mind. If you get 1 million people, you've got a shit ton of people that are out of their fucking mind that are running around that want extra attention. One of the best ways to say one of the best ways to get extra attention is to say you've had some extraordinary experience that separates you from the pack. It's one of the main points of delusion that people that are really out of their fucking mind will want to point to. I see things in people. I can read auras. I can tell. I'm a psychic healer. I'm an intuitive person. They all have this thing that separates them from the herd without any work whatsoever. I feel like a lot of these people are that. They want attention. And so they tell these extraordinary stories. Now, when you said they're not creative, that's a very astute point because they all have the same fucking story. Because it's the same story that's been going on forever. They just repeat shit they've already heard. Most of these people, I think, are full of shit. I think it is entirely possible that UFOs have been here. Entirely possible that people have seen UFOs. Entirely possible. But a lot of those people, my fucking bullshit radar just goes off. Bang, 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 bang,
Really?
bang, bang. Yeah. I've talked to too many of them. When I did that television show, Joe Rogan Questions Everything, and I met with UFO people and Bigfoot people, I was telling you before the podcast, it cured me. Because I got to be around those people for hours and just talk to them with no cameras on. I'm like, oh, you're fucking crazy, or you're delusional, or your way of looking at things is not objective, or you're talking to me because you want to convince me of something. You're not just communicating the ideas that are actually in your head. You're pitching me some sort of a speech. You're like, you've got some sort of a performance you're doing for me.
Oh,
and I smell
okay.
it. And as a performer, I smell it. I'm like, this is nonsense. You're telling me nonsense. You know, they would tell, well, you want evidence? I'll back a truck up and show you the evidence. I'm like, where's your fucking evidence? You don't have any
should have
evidence.
brought it today. I mean, like,
Exactly.
Here's the thing. Did they seem off kilter in everything else they talked about?
Yes.
Okay,
yes,
so they
everything.
did. That
Relationships,
would be convincing.
jobs, they're all screwballs. They're almost all screwballs. The people that are most convincing are the people that see these orbs flying around.
The pilots.
Yeah. Well, the reason why they see these things is there's a real phenomenon called ball lightning. It's absolutely real. And it's caused by various weather conditions. And they think that it can even be caused sometimes by the right weather conditions and the shifting of tectonic plates, that somehow or another the
Yes.
friction. Yes. And that these ball lightning, if you've ever seen videos of it, it's phenomenal. It just flies around. They've even had it inside airplanes. Somehow or another, ball lightning has shot down the aisle of an airplane while it was in flight.
I've actually seen it.
Have you really?
I've actually
Where have
seen
you
ball
seen it?
lightning on a flight that was struck by lightning.
Whoa.
It was pink. And it sounded like a giant BB gun hit a tin can. Oh, yeah.
Oh, you were in a plane that was hit by lightning? Holy shit. That's intense.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
What's the most compelling modern thing that you've seen?
Oh my God, I can't talk. Unfortunately, this is my frustration, Joe, because I know what I've seen. I know what my colleagues have seen, right? And to this day, there's video that's coming in on a regular and routine basis that is very, very compelling. And if the
How do they
American-
stuff from the general public?
well, we have quite systems. We hide a lot
Right,
of
but how is it getting filmed? Is any of it getting filmed by the general public, or is all this military stuff?
Let me backtrack a little bit. There's a general public that is filming stuff, but from a Department of Defense perspective, our focus now. Arrow's a different story, but when I was in the government, we had to be very, very careful of something that we called intelligence oversight. Back in the 60s and 70s, the U.S. intelligence apparatus, particularly in the Department of Defense, was kind of naughty. They were doing things they shouldn't do. They were spying on students and they were spying on American citizens.
You
and they were
don't
doing
say.
things. Yeah,
Crazy.
Right? Say it isn't so. So Congress passed some laws and said, okay, you can no longer do this kind of stuff on American citizens, right? You can't conduct intelligence operations on American citizens. You can't do it. It's illegal, right? Okay. So you have Executive Order 12333 and all these other rules and laws and DOD 5240.1 that all come out and say no mas. So Department of Defense is supposed to focus on military. That's it. You don't bring in U.S. persons' information and ingest them into a Department of Defense database, especially a Department of Defense intelligence database. That's a super no-no. That's called U.S. persons' information, and it's pretty much verboten. So our focus was looking specifically at military-sourced information. I was not focusing at all on what the private citizens were seeing, because at the end of the day, we couldn't use it. You can't do anything with it.
And it's like you got plenty of compelling footage from the military.
Overwhelming. There's absolutely no doubt that we didn't have to look at civilian data, because we had better collection sensor systems from the military that was looking at stuff and giving us better insight.
You can't tell us about, can you give us some sort of an understanding of like what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Without being...
Okay. Yeah. There is a video, high-resolution video, of I can't say what platform it was taken from. I can't say where it was taken from.
Okay.
But an object that, do you know how large an offshore oil derrick is? They're huge, right?
Yeah.
They're almost like a small city, right? They're like one city block. They're huge. They're enormous things. There is a video that shows one of these objects underwater that goes by. The speed was calculated between 450 and 550 knots underwater, and it was bigger than the offshore derrick that it was passing, because you could see in the video the offshore derrick, and you could see this thing zip right by it.
Jesus.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of, right? A lot of them are reported as being transmedium.
So that exactly why do we use the term UAP, right? Now it's unidentified anomalous phenomenon, because it's all domain. Initially it was UFO, unidentified flying object. And for several reasons they changed the name. One of them, not just because of stigma like people think, but because the word flying object means flight. And
Right.
you have to have wings to fly. That's flight. And these things don't have wings. So that term, we're not even sure is even accurate anymore, because they're not just flying. We see them underwater. We see them super high altitude. So the term was changed to unidentified aerial phenomenon. But again, that did not encompass all the observations we were seeing. So now the term UAP, I think the latest description of it is unidentified anomalous phenomenon, to help describe this multi-domain or transmedium characteristic that we are beginning to see and record that these things can do. And that is, I'm going to, if I can digress for a second, because that's super important, Joe. Mm-hmm. We have transmedium vehicles, right? We have things like seaplanes, and it's a plane and it can float on water. But let's face it, a seaplane is neither a really good plane or a really good boat, because it's a compromise. It's a design compromise between an object that you want to perform in the air and in the sea. And that's why it's neither really good at both. Same thing with, for example, the space shuttle. It goes out into space and it can glide down, but it's not a very good airplane, comes down like a brick,
Right.
because there's design compromises and performance compromises. But what we are seeing doesn't have any of that attributable compromise. It's not, these objects aren't slowing down. They're not changing their performance capabilities. They can do the same thing that we're seeing in the air and possibly in space and even underwater. So that is a fundamentally different type of technology than we are used to dealing with.
The assumption that they are doing something with space, time, and gravity around them, rather than using something like a jet propulsion engine that blasts fire out the back and it makes it go fast forward.
Right.
That they're doing something that alters the gravity around them. And
So
that's why they can go through everything.
Yeah, we had some of the best scientists on the team, folks like Dr. Hal Puthoff and some other folks that I'm not allowed to say their names, Dr. Eric Davis and some others, that were doing the calculations, mathematical calculations on how this is possible. And the consensus was by the scientists, not me, because I'm not a physics expert, I'm not a astrophysicist. They were saying that, so let me back up here. Initially, the government for years was trying to identify the different exotic technologies that could explain the different performance characteristics. And it was during the ATIP years that the scientists had this consensus that if you had one type of technology, if you could do one thing, all these other observables now become possible. Kind of think of like a unifying theory. Mm-hmm. And so if you had the ability to create this bubble around you in a localized area that insulated you from the effects of Earth's gravity. Now, what is gravity? People think that, when I drop my glasses, that's gravity. That's not gravity. That's an effect of gravity. Gravity is the warping of space-time. And that's important because people you hear the term thrown around a lot, but they don't realize that space and time are actually connected. They are one and the same. They're opposite sides, if you will, of the same coin. And so you can't have one without the other. And so you have this ability to create a bubble around you that insulates you from the warping of space-time, let's say in this case Earth's gravity or something like that. Then the way you experience time inside that bubble is perhaps fundamentally different than the way you might experience space-time outside that bubble, because you're not subject to the effects of gravity, which would explain potentially why things don't need wings and why they don't need propulsion systems like that, right? So it's a completely different way of looking at how we understand physics and how we as humans move about. Everything we do is fundamentally force equals mass times acceleration, right? F equals ma, right? Mass times acceleration and you get force. This may be something a little bit different. This is not using, again, conventional thrust, or if I Newtonian, right? If I push this way, I have an equal and opposite reaction that way, right? That's how.
Are there any theories as to how it's accomplished?
There is actually. Dr. Hal Puthoff about 3 years ago gave a speech on this, a very interesting lecture about this technology. And if you ever have the chance, you really should have him on, because he's an incredible human being. He's also the one who helped start the government's remote viewing program and a bunch of other stuff for the government. He's been involved in a lot of our nation's probably most classified efforts. But he was working with us on ATIP. He was one of our scientists. And he gave a lecture about 3 years ago to some other scientists about the specifics on how this is possible. I am not a scientist, so I'm definitely not going to speak on behalf of Hal Puthoff, because I'm sure I will muck it up. But I do recall a time when he came into our skiff and gave us about a 3-hour lecture on this unifying theory. And at that moment, it was very much for us the epiphany that a lot of us had been searching for. He's like, look, at the end of the day, this is how it's possible. And that was kind of this, wow. So it's really not.
Can you give us a
magic.
moron's view of how it's possible?
Yeah.
Someone like me?
Yeah, well, I'm in that category, Joe. So
Good. We're speaking the same language.
Yeah, single syllable grunts, right? Yeah. So you have an object like this cup on your table, and you want it to be insulated from the effects of Earth's gravity. So you create this bubble artificially using a certain energetic source at a certain frequency, and it interacts with certain material, certain metamaterial, and I got to be careful exactly what I say, but certain skin of the craft, this aluminum via the cup here, and all of a sudden, whoop, you have this bubble around you where what you see on the outside is not necessarily what you see on the inside. In fact, may I do a little more drawing for you? Okay, and forgive me, I'm not an artist, so I'm going to do this upside down for you, and then I'm going to kind of scoot this just a little here. All right, let's do this. So, unfortunately, I know your audience can't see this, but actually it's
That's
probably
okay.
good.
Some people can. There's a video form of it. Well, I'm sure this will get on. It'll be on YouTube as well.
It's probably good that they don't, because I'm not an artist. But
Okay.
let's say this is a two-dimensional representation of a three-dimensional space.
Okay.
And in essence,
so what you've done is essentially you created a three-dimensional looking grid stacked. It looked like stacked boxes on top of each other.
yeah, right. And so you have location A and location B.
Mm-hmm.
And let's say I go from Los Angeles to Baltimore.
Okay.
And it takes me 5 hours fly at 500 miles an hour. That's a function of distance over time. And in essence, you can mark that linearly like this. So I fly, it takes me 5 hours, there I am.
Okay.
If you had the ability to compress space-time, and not a lot, just a little bit, and you were able to allow these points to be a little closer together, now in essence, what took you, let's say, 5 hours and 500 miles an hour to do it, you can do it in 1 hour, and you can do it in much less time. But to the observer outside, because we're still in the same universe, we would see something like that. We would see this incredible hopscotching ability to, if you will, take a shortcut through space-time. And so what would appear to be instantaneous acceleration, hypersonic velocity, and other things, now becomes a reality. And so that is fundamentally what these scientists had discovered. And so it seems like science fiction, but when you understand the mathematics and some of the theorem that they've proposed, a lot of these other observables become possible.
Well, these are essentially just theoretical explanations of how these things are moving.
Yeah, again, I'm not a scientist. So I want to be
understand.
very careful. I don't want to misrepresent anything. There's a whole lot of other stuff that if you can do that, all of a sudden now makes sense and may describe the observations that people are seeing and why they're kind of hard to see and they seem obscure.
Right.
And so I think from a governmental perspective, that it was kind of a revelatory moment for the folks in our program.
Realize one of the reasons why these things are weird looking is because they're creating. You want a light?
Do you mind? I'm
Yeah, take this.
Thank you.
So, the back thing, the other side. Push that down. There you go. Bam.
Thank you very much.
No problem. So, how much of this is theoretical and how much of this is observed from recovered vehicles?
I'm not allowed to talk about what the government may or may not have in its possession, other than that so I went through a very lengthy Pentagon review process. Recently, I wrote, I won't talk about it here, but I wrote something. And I had to go through Pentagon to have a review process. And it took almost a year. In this thing I wrote, I talk about up to the part I can talk about. And they approved for me to talk about up to that point. When it comes to what the government may or may not have in its possession, all I can simply say is that there is very compelling evidence to suggest that the U.S. government is in absolute possession of exotic material that is not made by humans. Now, beyond that, I can't really expound upon. I haven't been given permission to talk about it. But what I can say is what I've already said for the record, which has been approved by the Pentagon. I won't get in trouble by saying it. Is that we are there's very compelling data to suggest that we are in possession of.
Why is the Pentagon teasing us? Why do they tell you? Why are they allowing you to say we are in possession of something that was not made by human beings, but not allowed to elaborate, not allowed to show these very compelling videos that you're talking about that you've seen?
Well, two reasons. I don't think they have a choice. I think with now the introduction of cell phones and Ring cameras, the cat's out of the bag. It's the worst kept secret at this point. Two, there is a faction, unlike before in the Cold War, I believe there is a faction of people inside the government that do want this conversation to occur. But equally, there's still a faction of people that are very mad with me.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
What did you think about when they attached in the COVID relief bill 180 days for the CIA to release all the information they have about the UFOs? Did you see that?
That's one of the things I love about this.
We can go from there.
Like, yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah,
fantastic.
we can't be taken seriously that way.
No. But I will say this. I tell people this all the time. They say, why is it so entertaining? I say, because he's curious about everything. He's genuinely curious about everything, and it's a good question. Look, I'm happy that when it comes to UFOs, there's a lot of things that the agency needs to keep, off the radar, right? For source methods, right? It's a need to know issue. And frankly, again, going back to what's in the U.S. best interest, for that day when China decides to release all of their intel operations and information, then great. Maybe it's time for us to be transparent. But that's not the way the world works.
Do you think that's what it is? Of it is just secret programs, defense vehicles?
Well, no. What I'm saying is in terms of the UFO thing, a great portion of it is. Yeah, a great portion of it is
50%.
Oh, now the 47% actually. But anybody has said that, that's well known inside the community. Yeah, no, look, I think it's good because I think look, it's for the same reason the Pentagon released the information about ATIP, about the Advanced Aeronautical Threat Identification Program. I think it's actually good. There's no reason why we shouldn't, unless you are talking about developmental aircraft as an example, right? Which is important because whether you're talking about hypersonic aircraft or missiles or whatever it is, there's some stuff that needs to be kept off the radar screen because there is a tremendous competition going on right now particularly for things like control of space. That's going to be a huge issue, right? Yeah. Because the weaponization of space. For a long time, people were thinking, space, it's a great exploration and it's good for mankind. And frankly, there is a race to figure out how to weaponize space. And so as an example of what we're talking about, the idea of just saying, we're going to open the books as a country and reveal all our information about developmental aircraft as an example, that's the wrong move, right?
But do you think there are incredible stories, whether it's from Commander David Fravor, who saw that Tic Tac vehicle off the coast of San Diego, or whatever video?
Yeah. If I had to point to one, I would say Fravor.
Yeah.
I would say without a doubt, I'd say the one that if I were somebody who's looking for some redemption, because I've been beating the drum about UFOs and nobody's ever believed me, they always roll their eyes, I would say the one thing that would give them comfort would be the incident with Commander Fravor and that sighting. That's one that I have yet to see an explanation for that makes any sense.
Well, not only that, there's Practit.
Yeah.
Like there's
and
then also it blocked their radar systems, which is an act of war. It actively jammed radar systems. It's not simple as like they saw something, they didn't know what it was. Like they tracked this thing going from I think it was close to 80,000 feet above sea level to one
down,
in 1 second.
Yeah, no signs of motion.
Yeah,
no heat signatures, nothing. Right, and it was a. Yeah, it's one of those things you look at and you go, okay. And look, the ATIP program made sense in the sense that, if a nation is out there, if the Chinese are out there or the Russians or whomever, and they're developing a propulsion capability that we don't know about, then, we should have a mechanism within the Pentagon, within the intel community to understand what that is. Let's research it. Let's investigate, right? And so oftentimes, they come to a logical conclusion. The Fravor incident, I have yet to see any information that explains it, right? So that to me, and also, as you pointed out, the way that it was tracked, the verification of it from very credible, individuals, that to me is like the prime example.
And they have video footage of this thing too.
Yes,
and then on top
and they
of
have
the
gun
Nimitz
camera footage that's incredible.
saying that these things are fairly common, that they're seeing them every couple of weeks. They were seeing them, and when Fravor's like, "Hey guys, what the fuck is this?" and they're like, "Yeah, you see it?
Yeah,
we've been seeing these things."
And there's no side for somebody like that, a very well respected, aviator with great experience. There's no upside for these guys to come forward, right? In fact, there's pressure to not, because it's not necessarily good for your career, right? To come in and say, "I think I saw a UFO," right?
What do you think is going?
I don't know. We've talked about that before. I'm not,
I'm trying to get forget what you said before.
Yeah, I know, right? You forgot about the damn bet. I shouldn't have opened my mouth. I know. I'll go back to that, though. They would have called me out. If Trump comes back and runs, they would have said, "Oh, you owe him $1,000.
Can't wait to get that Screaming Eagle in here that I'm going to buy.
I'm going to I'll buy it for you with them, and I'll put a little plaque on there to say where it came from.
Big Bronze Eagle.
I know, big. Oh, God. I've got one. I gave a speech for a Veterans Day event, and it was very kind. They gave me this big eagle. I keep it in my office now. It's fantastic. I keep it in the background when I do news segments from my office, and it's like perched over my shoulder. Nice. And you got to have one in here. Anyway, I don't know.
You think about it at all?
Yeah, I do. In the terms of and like I said, with Black Files Declassified coming up, I just got another plug-in. We're going to do an episode
that's on the
Discovery Channel, and you know what? You can see the entire first season on Discovery Plus. So I think it's foolish to discount these things because there's so much we don't know, right? So, and the idea of thinking that somehow we're the only credible life forms out there, I think is ridiculous. So I think there's a high possibility that that there's, yes, I do think that, but at the same time, then I also question sort of the way that's great. If some alien life force with amazing technology that we can't even fathom right now comes to visit us, then what the hell are they doing? Are they just sort of like watching us just for the entertainment value? Or what? So I'm always puzzled by that part. Like, the idea that, I don't know.
Well, they probably want to observe, but they don't want to interfere. There's probably, if they're super advanced, they probably realize there's a process that intelligent life goes through where there's stages of their evolutionary development in terms of use of technology, understanding of each other, mitigation of war and conflict, and then ultimately entrance into the Galactic Federation. Catch new episodes of The Joe Experience for free only on Spotify. Watch back catalog JRE videos on Spotify, including clips. Easily, seamlessly switch between video and audio experience. On Spotify, you can listen to the JRE in the background while using other apps and can download episodes to save on data cost, all for free. Spotify is absolutely free. You don't have to have a premium account to watch new JRE episodes. You just need to search for the JRE on your Spotify app. Go to Spotify now to get this full episode of The Joe Rogan Experience.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
Is it amazing to you, as spent so long thinking about otherworldly visitors, that now they're releasing all this information and no one really cares?
The world is in such chaos.
No
now.
one cares.
No one cares.
I couldn't
if
care
this
less.
happened in the middle of the Obama administration when everything was going great, it would be giant news.
And what is the news even, that the Pentagon just can't account for all these unidentified flying objects?
Yeah, they don't. They are.
Okay.
There's some of them that could easily be drones because they're not moving at spectacular speeds.
Right.
They're just sort of like hovering over aircraft carriers. Those could be drones. They could be some new style of drone or some new kind of technology that maybe some foreign government has. But there's other ones that were spotted by Air Force pilots and then tracked, and they have detailed data on the speed of these things. They have video of these things going with what appears to be thousands of miles an hour, instantaneously accelerating with no visible propulsion system, no heat signature. They don't know what the fuck this is.
Yeah.
And this is from 2004 off the Nimitz. Commander David Fravor, who was a fighter jet pilot, is like rock solid credentials. You can't, and I've talked to the guy, I had him on my podcast, and even better, he was on Lex's podcast, and Lex did an even better job than I did, and talked to him for 2+ hours about this. And the guy's incredibly credible. That fucking thing, whenever he was tracking, went from the Nimitz tracked it. They tracked it on radar. They tracked it with the onboard sensors, the things that they use for targeting enemy crafts. They tracked this thing from the Nimitz. It went 80,000 feet above sea level to 50 feet in a second.
That's crazy.
They don't know what the fuck it is.
They don't know what it is.
They know that it was jamming their radar. They know it was jamming them, and then it moved when it took off at insane rates of speed. They couldn't even watch it. It just, it's gone. And then it re-emerged at the cat point. The cat point is the predetermined location where the jets are supposed to scramble to during this exercise. So it's literally saying, I know where you guys are going.
Right.
You're going over here.
Right.
Whatever the fuck it is, who knows? But does that mean that it's from another planet? No. It could be some fucking insane technology that the military's developed.
That we don't know. It could be DARPA.
Because have you seen that shit where the military, there's patents for UFO type, see if you can find what those are, because they're developing, or at least they've attempted to develop some sort of gravitational drive that would indicate that at least there's been some thought about developing a craft like that. Now, if you put a person in one of these things and you shot them off thousands of miles an hour, they turn into jello.
Right.
But who says it's a person?
Who knows?
We got a rover on Mars right now
Right.
taking pictures. There's a helicopter attached to it.
Right.
You got high-resolution photographs from Mars. Here it is. Docs show Navy got UFO patent granted by warning of similar Chinese tech advances. This is what I'm saying. Patent document indicates that the U.S. and China are actively developing radical new craft that seem eerily similar to UFOs reported by Navy pilots. Now, if they're
if this is like on paper somewhere where they're trying to get patents and they're telling you the Chinese, the military already has something like this, what we're getting is years later.
Right.
They've been probably developing shit like this for decades.
Forever.
So they
Yeah.
probably have some sort of working thing that can move in extraordinary ways.
We are not going to care until Mars Attack style raid on the White House, like that movie. Yeah, if you're not going to, if you don't land with ray guns and start blasting people, I don't even give a shit. Like, no one's going to care.
We're real weird with it now.
Yeah.
I've always said that if aliens are real, Earth is the Tijuana of outer space.
You're not kidding.
And they come down here when they're fucked up and they want
Right.
to see a show.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Trying to save Tijuana.
No,
no
nobody's thinking about it. Yeah, it's a play to go, and they mention it in a movie.
Yeah.
every now and
You go
then.
see a donkey show.
Yeah.
Robert Rodriguez features it in a
Yeah.
vampire movie, and then you get out of there.
It's interesting. It's the one conspiracy that I've never gotten into that much because there's just, the information is so tough to come by that I've just always said nothing would surprise me. Nothing would surprise me.
There's something going on. There's
Oh,
something
indeed.
going on, but what that something is remains to be seen.
Have you seen that video in black that walk into this? It's just two very tall, weird dudes that walk into like a hotel and then leave. Jamie, you can find it easily, and it's just these guys that were supposedly like, you know, something weird happened, and supposedly they're guys that come in like after something weird happens and like shut it down, and they're both very tall and very. And I don't know if it's fake or not. I don't think it is fake though, but I don't know. It could be fake.
Where can one find this video?
It's on YouTube or something. Jamie can find it. It's the real Men in Black. It's like the real, whatever. Supposedly there was something that happened where, I don't know, somebody went in after it. Like somebody had to go respond to something, and these two like weird looking dudes came in. Very strange. There's got to be a Men in Black. If we know about, there's got to be some part of the government that deals with that.
Well, there's two schools of thought, right? One school of thought is that the government is way competent to ever keep anything from anybody.
That's not true.
That's not true.
Right.
And there's other schools of thought where you're like, no, there's a perceived buffoonery that's attached to some level of government because there's a lot of people in government that are fucking idiots.
Right.
But there's a lot of people that work at UPS that are fucking
That are
idiots.
idiots, yeah.
But if you get to the highest levels of the organization,
They know what they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to send to the highest levels of the CIA or the NSA, you're going to probably be brilliant.
Right.
What are the
Right.
odds that you're not?
Right.
You're probably going to have a
And a good person. No.
the best people.
But
you're going to have a
be
deep
smart.
understanding
of what's going on.
of foreign policy and how to manipulate things and
Did you not
intelligence.
find black video?
Not really. I found something, but it was like it was animation and stuff. It wasn't really like a hotel. So,
No, I don't know if it was a hotel. It was just two guys that walked in and then left, and they looked
the
very
video
strange.
I found is it's like a description of events of like that happening. I didn't find it
Okay,
like
well.
actual video. I'm looking.
Well, it's always been one of those things of UFO folklore, right? That these men in black folks,
Yeah,
they
that-
look oddly fake. They look like fake-looking skin when
Right.
they show up.
Yeah.
But that's what I would do. If I was going to go interview some guy about UFOs, you know what I would
Yeah.
do? I'd put like weird white makeup on.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
I'd dress in a black suit and I'd ask him strange questions while wearing sunglasses.
Yeah.
And I'd have him freak out.
Why not?
Why not fuck with him?
Yeah.
Why not leave him to the point where what he's going to tell all of his friends is so crazy, no one's going to believe it?
Well, that's part of, I think, what a lot of it is.
Well,
is that-
imagine if you have
Yeah.
an aircraft that's shaped like a pyramid, right? And you're flying it over Philadelphia.
Yeah, here it is.
Okay.
That's all it is. I don't know what this.
Yeah.
is, though.
Dudes
Well,
wearing suits. But it is.
To me, that proves it.
Yeah, what is that?
It
Real Men in
proves
Black.
it to me.
What does it say?
That proves it to me.
Well, what is the Niagara Falls? Show canceled. What is that?
Immediately.
Okay.
What is he saying?
Finally, we have perhaps the most conclusive evidence of the real Men in Black. A hotel in Canada, and the manager was a little disturbed when his bellboy informed him that the previous day the hotel had been visited by two tall men dressed completely in black who demanded to speak to him.
Maybe they were
They
Johnny
had-
Cash fans.
Yeah.
What the fuck does
To
that
me-
mean? So they're just this is what's ridiculous conspiracy theories. Those are
But they
two
didn't I
guys
think
wearing
they didn't
suits.
have eyebrows.
I have a suit. Do you have a suit?
Yes, but I don't think
So
they had
what?
eyebrows. Now that
What is this? They had no eyebrows? Oh, see, that's what I would do. I would fucking shave my eyebrows or put some makeup on over them so that I look like a weirdo, and then make them real uncomfortable when they're telling their friends, man, you're not going to fucking believe this. Look at these guys.
Here they are.
Okay, that's got to be from a movie, right? What is that? Know. What is that image from? Let that guy play it out. Let's hear.
That concludes our look at the Men in Black. But
oh,
remember,
come on.
guys,
That guy's
this
got
has
striped
been a look
ties.
at just a handful of real-life accounts involving these mystery men. There are many more stories to look at online.
Yeah. Oh, well, as long as they're online.
There's a British guy. There's the Men in Black. There are many mysteries to look at.
As long as there's more stories.
Yeah, online.
That's
there's more content online we can sink our teeth into.
Catch new episodes of The Joe Experience for free, only on Spotify. Watch back catalog JRE videos on Spotify, including clips. Easily, seamlessly switch between video and audio experience. On Spotify, you can listen to the JRE in the background while using other apps and can download episodes to save on data cost, all for free. Spotify is absolutely free. You don't have to have a premium account to watch new JRE episodes. You just need to search for the JRE on your Spotify app. Go to Spotify now to get this full episode of the Joe Rogan Experience. Hello, freak bitches.
The community thing, I think, is like a key thing.
Yes.
I recently did a debunk of a UFO that the Chilean Navy supposedly saw.
What was that? I'm not aware of that one.
It was like this this thing. There was a Chilean Navy helicopter had this infrared camera. And they saw this two black dots off in the distance that looked like a weird thing, like a figure eight type thing flying away. And then it started like spraying out this stuff, and they couldn't figure what it was, and they chased after it, but it was too fast and it got away from them. And the Chilean government has an official UFO investigation team, and they set them on it, and they spent 2 years figuring out what it was, and they couldn't figure out what it was, and so they said it's a confirmed unidentified object, and then they published their findings, and then I and some other people on Metabunk looked at it, and we figured out it was actually just a plane flying away from the helicopter, leaving some contrails behind, and we actually figured out exactly which plane it was. And so this got a bit of play online, and there was on like Huffington Post and things like that. And some UFO enthusiasts started talking to me, and I joined their groups, and I joined a few other groups, and then I found myself in this kind of weird corner of the internet where everybody believes in UFOs unquestioningly, and they're always putting up these photographs of things, and people are like, "Oh, great capture, dude." And it's just something like a street light or something. But they think they have this confirmation bias, this group confirmation bias, where they can't disagree with someone, and they know they're in a safe space, so they can put out whatever theory that they like, and they know that people will be like, they're just very supportive of them.
Yeah.
Like one that happened a couple of days ago, some woman put up a picture of a strange light that she said was in the sky. And so I downloaded the picture and I boosted the brightness, and I saw it was actually a reflection of something in a security light on a porch. And you could see it was like there was trees behind it, and it was a security light, and there's this reflection. So I posted that, and then I started getting called like a shill for pointing this out.
Yeah.
There's a couple of people who like said, "Oh yeah, it's just this light," but other people were like, "What the heck? Why don't you believe me? Why are you like invalidating like my claims?"
Right.
And so they want to have these kind of little walled gardens where everybody believes the same thing.
That's a good way to put it. The walled gardens. It really is a good way to put it, because that is what those communities seemed like, and that's one of the things that I found when I did that television show. I still harbored a few conspiracy theories before I did that show, but doing that show for several months and constantly interviewing people who believed in outlandish things, I found the same thing over and over and over again. Illogical people with very little evidence, believing things in almost a religious way. And I found it with Bigfoot, and I found it with UFOs, and I found it with chemtrails, and I found it with, it was just one after the other in varying stages of ridiculousness. I feel like contrails and chemtrails were the most nutty people. The UFO people seem to be the most reasonable, because it's the most reasonable theory out of all of them. The idea that we have spaceships, why doesn't someone else have spaceships? There's hundreds of billions of galaxies in the known universe, hundreds of billions of planets in each galaxy, the odds of there being some sort of a life form out there is pretty high. But there's nothing. That's the craziest thing. Like, the more I talked to these people, the more I went over all their evidence, air quotes evidence, the more I asked them why they believe things. There is nothing. There's not a goddamn thing that you can put on a scale. There's not a thing that you can weigh. There's not a thing that you can measure. There's not a thing that you can look at a photo and go, wow, that's compelling. There's not one. It's just an idea. And that idea is that there's something in the sky that flies around that we, either might catch if you're there, the right place, the right time, or not, and that they're from another planet. But
yeah, if you look at what put forward as the best evidence, it's often like
it's nothing.
Cases from the 60s where there's an eyewitness who said something, like there was some guy on a road who says he blacked out and his car got messed up.
It's always that.
From the 60s.
Well, that thing that I know too much about psychedelic drugs, and I know about endogenous psychedelic drugs, the brain producing this chemical called dimethyltryptamine that happens when you're sleeping. Now, they've proven that this stuff is produced in the liver and in the lungs, and they believe it's now, they've got evidence that it's produced in the pineal gland. It's a very potent psychedelic drug that your brain produces, and your brain produces it during REM sleep. So these people, they all take naps, and during these naps, they have these crazy fucking dreams, and it's entirely possible that during these dreams, what happened is they got some endogenous DMT dump, whether they were under stress or whether they just had an erratic dump of this human neurochemical that entered into their bloodstream, whatever it is that caused it. All these fucking UFO abductions, all of them, like almost exactly happen at night. And they happen while these people are sleeping. Like, wouldn't you just assume that you were dreaming? Like, why wouldn't you assume you were dreaming?
Yeah, I used to have these kind of night terror hallucination things, which were kind of like that.
Yeah.
And it was always the same type of thing. It was like a giant spider coming down from the ceiling towards me. And I would, it's like, frozen for a second, and then I would jump out of bed and turn on the light and look for the spider. And it happened all the time. I knew because there was no spider that it wasn't real, but I could see if someone was having a different type of hallucination that seemed a bit more real, and then it came in between sleep cycles for them. Then totally, you can see, because it seemed completely real.
Yeah.
I used to have them all the time, and it was always like, it was horrible. It was this like giant, really realistic spider. And it wasn't like, I was dreaming somewhere else. I was in the room, and I could see it like I was seeing something crawling across the table right here. It was this hallucination. I don't really get them anymore. I don't know what it was. My brain's fixed itself or whatever. But
it's probably a lot has to do with being young and confused, and hormones and nerves, and then also like your brain starts filling in the blanks. If you don't have a very good understanding of the universe, and your imagination runs wild. It was very confusing to me doing that television show, and it really changed me a lot. And it changed me to the point that people started accusing me of being co-opted by the government. That the government threatened my family and told me to stop talking about conspiracies. And then the idea that I wouldn't say that if that was the case. Like, you don't think I would fucking tell everybody if someone threatened my family because I was talking about UFOs? I'd be telling everybody. I'd be like, hey, man. Yeah. I would tell all my friends. I'd be like, dude, they fucking threatened me because I was talking about UFOs. This shit is real. Hangar 18. Area 51.
I think there was a paper a while ago published, like how many people it would take to cover up certain conspiracy theories, and the probability of none of those people ever talking.
Yeah.
And it's just ridiculous. Like, you can't have tens of millions of people in on a conspiracy about it.
What do you think happened at Roswell?
I think
Roswell, the one, that's the big one. July 1947, I think a UFO crashed.
Yeah, I think it's what they said it was, that those balloons that they were using to detect Russian nuclear bombs in the atmosphere, and it was a secret program, so they weren't allowed to tell anybody about it. So they came in, they picked up the remains of the balloon, and then the story just took off.
That's a funny one, though, boy. That's made a whole town famous for UFOs. If you go there now, they have like alien-themed gift shops.
They're milking it. And it's like you said earlier, like people make money out of something, and then they get stuck into that. So because they're making money out of it, they're motivated to promote whatever it is, if it's Bigfoot or if it's aliens.
Have you ever seen anything in all of your years of trying to debunk these things that made you question whether or not this was a legitimate phenomena?
What, the chemtrail thing?
Anything. UFO, chemtrail.
Well, the thing with UFOs, there's always things that you can't explain. There are things that are unidentified, but there's usually plausible explanations for them.
Right.
I like to, whenever I'm given something like a mysterious thing, I like to list all the explanations that I can think of. And maybe none of them are a perfect fits that you can guarantee this is what the explanation is. But it being like a ghost or an alien spacecraft as an explanation is usually pretty close to the bottom. Like you start out saying, oh, it's a balloon,
right,
or it's a bird, or it's a drone, or it's CGI, or it's it's something somebody faked afterwards,
right,
or it's an alien spacecraft, or in between that, it's something else that we don't know what it is.
Is there any evidence, in terms of UFOs, that's interesting?
I haven't, to be honest, I haven't really looked into the whole sphere of UFOlogy. I know a lot of people have, but just looking at the quality of the best cases they put forward, like I mentioned earlier, some guy in 1964, got his car beat up on a road.
Right.
These are the top 10 best cases, and this was number 2 or something.
What about Bob Lazar? You ever looking at that guy?
Which was he
Bob Lazar
abductee?
supposedly worked at Area 51 and became a whistleblower.
No, I haven't. But a lot of it's something you see in the 9/11 community and in the chemtrail community is people kind of becoming celebrities.
Yeah.
And then they kind of start going on road shows, and they go to conventions and they speak, and then they write books, and then they start doing things, and they get sucked into their belief.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
One of the things that I wanted to talk to you about is the JFK files. And one of the things that you said was that if they showed you what they showed me, this was your quote, you wouldn't want people to know it either.
So I opened them up partially. I was met with, from good people, good people. People that were well-meaning. Mike Pompeo was one of them. He's a good person. They called me, they said, sir, would rather have you not. And I did open them. But I was asked by some people not to open them. There's a Martin Luther King file, too, by the way, that they'd like to see. I don't know if you know, but there is that. But JFK in particular. So they called me, a lot of good people called me, people that that you would find reasonable people. And they asked me not to do it. So I said, well, we'll close it for another time. But if I win, I'm going to open them up. I'm just going to open enough time.
Why didn't you the first time?
Because a lot of times,
what was the hesitation, though?
Addresses people that are still living. There are people that are affected, and there could be some national security reason that that I don't have to necessarily know about. But some very good, talented people asked me not to do it. I opened it up, and then they said, "Would it be possible for us to do that a different day?"
How much of it did you read into?
I think it's going to be just fine to open it. Let me put it that way. I think it's fine. It's going to be time. It's a cleansing. It's really a cleansing. So I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it immediately, almost immediately upon entering office.
Well, when people look at it from the outside and you sort of imagine what could be a reason why they would not release those files, it would be there's people that were implicated in the assassination.
Yeah. Well, when there are living people, you generally tend not to want to do it. When people are still living people that for the government and living people that were somehow involved in it, and you tend not to do that. But it's time to open them. I can't tell you whether or not they're going to find anything of interest. And I did partially open. I think I've opened 50%, but I was asked not to do it, and I thought that was a reasonable ask. But now I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it very soon. There's a lot of interest in it. Interest in the people coming from space.
Yes.
And I know you're interested in that.
Oh, very interested in that. How much did they tell you about that?
A lot.
Really?
Yeah.
What did they tell you? How much can you
tell? How's that
secret?
Tell me. Well, based on Hunter Biden, I can say whatever the hell I want, right? But I interviewed a few people. It's never been my thing, I have to be honest. I have never been a believer. I have people that Area 51 or whatever it is. I think it's the #1 tourist attraction in the whole country or something. Area 51 in Las Vegas. Do you know that, right?
I know what it is.
So, anyway, but it's a big tourist thing. So I interviewed jet pilots that say they saw something. If you saw them, you'd love to have them as
I've had a cousin here, Commander David Fravor. I had him in, who had that sighting in 2004. Very compelling with video evidence, radar evidence.
I don't believe his name, but I interviewed jet pilots that were solid people. Perfect. I mean, great pilots, great everything. And they said, we saw things, sir, that were very strange. Like a round ball, but it wasn't a comet or a meteor. It was something. And it was going 4 times faster than an F-22, which is a very fast plane, you know. And it was round. Which is, in theory, a great shape.
So when you were talking to these people, was this something that you were compelled to have conversations about? Was this your personal interest?
It's not a great interest for me, but it's a little interest. I get that question as much as almost any question. Do you think that we have aliens coming, flying around or whatever?
What do you think?
There's no reason not to. I mean, there's no reason not to think that Mars and all these planets don't have life, because
Mars, we've had probes there and rovers, and I don't think there's any life there.
Well, maybe life that we don't know about.
Maybe there was life there at one point in time. This is the speculation about Mars, that Mars had an atmosphere at one point in time, a long time ago, that could support life. It also had large bodies of water, but we've had no evidence of even bacterial life that exists on Mars. But the universe is pretty vast. It's not been a big thing for me. I mean, when I looked at what China did to this, they would have never done it with me, where they put the balloon up, and a lot of people thought for a little while that was one of these things. So, that's a lot of the speculation too, that some of these drones that hover over battleships, that these are Chinese drones, and that they're not UFOs.
They could be also.
There's some super sophisticated.
But I did interview, let's say 3 or 4 guys and without tremendous interest, if you had them. As I said, you'd love to have them as your children. Solid, beautiful people. They said, sir, there's something there.
There's something there.
Said it, yeah.
Yeah, I've talked to a few of
them.
They're
not conspiracy guys.
Well, I mean, just the Commander David Fravor thing in 2004 off the coast of San Diego, they clocked that thing going from 50,000 feet above sea level to 50 in a second.
Yeah.
They don't know what it is.
That's tough to beat.
Yeah, they saw something in the water. It was hovering over that something that was making a disturbance in the water. They got video evidence of this thing. 2 different fighter jets with pilots in them saw it. There's, visual evidence, photographic evidence, video evidence, radar evidence. Whatever the hell it is, it moves in a way that would turn a human being into jello if they're inside of it. The G-force, no one would survive.
Oh,
so what is that? It doesn't have a heat signature. They don't know what their propulsion system was. But
when you fly some of these jets, these pilots have to be in great shape.
Oh, yeah. I flew with the Blue Angels once.
Yeah,
I got to fly. I guess it's an 18.
And those are older machines.
Crazy.
When you fly in some of these things.
Oh, my God.
Yeah,
I can imagine.
You got to be special.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
There's been many instances of sightings off the coast of California of things that plunge into the water or escape from the water and take off into space. So,
with the field propulsion system, as Commander Fravor is describing, as Lazar described, it doesn't matter the medium of space, air, or water. There's no resistance, no splash. I mean, this goes back to, when Christopher Columbus reported a UFO sighting.
He did?
Oh, yeah. This idea, so this has been around. Anyway, this idea, boom, that you can go through these different mediums.
Pause for a second. Christopher Columbus had a UFO sighting?
Yeah, it's a written account, so it's like...
Find that.
No video.
It's not going to be a video.
This is bullshit. I'm shocked.
But
it's bullshit.
Well, see, but that's what's so cool. So Commander Fravor's encounter, it's not the most documented. It's not the most dramatic. However, it has had the most impact out of any sighting because of his credibility and the mere fact that the New York Times picked it up with video footage, radar evidence, and somebody who is as credible as Commander Fravor. It has changed the dynamic of the way the government responds. New Navy protocols because of Commander Fravor coming forward. There are closed-door congressional and Senate briefings. He's been part of them. He's admitted that before. There's a new study about UFOs because of this encounter. It's so much evidence, has so much power to it compared to other ones. So Christopher Columbus, great, cool story. Somebody wrote it down. Who knows if he even wrote it down? We have highly documented cases. This one has changed our culture. And that's what's so cool. People are talking about it differently.
So this is a good story. This is true. So I was sitting at home, and usually when people try and find me, they get my wife's cell phone because it's the first one on the cell phone bill, and it's all in my name. So I see this call from California, and I'm like, and normally I don't answer them, and it's her phone. I'm like, who's calling my wife? Because that is me. So I answer it, and this lady says, hey, is Commander Fravor there? And I go, who's calling? And she goes, well, I'd like to talk to Commander Fravor. I go, who's calling? And she says, hi, I'm a 79-year-old woman, and I would just like to tell him my story. I go, well, you're talking to him. And she goes, I've never in my life told anyone this. She goes, I grew up, my dad was in the Navy. She goes, he was stationed in Rhode Island at first when she was a child. She said we were walking, her and her mom were walking on the beach, and they saw these weird lights. So that kind of got her into that, UFOs. She goes, a few years later, they had moved to San Francisco. So I imagine Treasure Island, because at her age, it would have been, probably in the 50s. She said her dad was working as a Navy liaison to the agency. And he came home one day and he had a telegram in his hand. And she goes, for some reason, he let me read it. She's telling me this story. And I said, well, what did it say? She says it basically said, hey, unidentified objects going in and out of the water, and it had a latitude and longitude in it. And he looked at her, she goes, and I'm a child, and I always remember this. She says, he looked at me and said, we get these all the time, and it's always in the same area. And I go, of course. I go, well, you got the telegram? She goes, of course not. He had to take it back to work. I said, you don't have to remember that latitude, longitude. She said, no. She goes, but you seem to be so credible and believable. She goes, I wanted to tell someone the story that I've never told anyone in my life. So that's what you're starting to see is people that, very credible. They're not crazy. They're not making stuff up, but they're coming out and going, hey, I've had these experiences. And I've got a lot of that from over the last 2 years where people just find my email and send me stuff saying, hey, this happened to me, or I saw this. And there's some things that are explainable because I got asked to tell this. So, because I have a sick sense of humor at times. So, like I said, I had all these quals. So we used to fly, they don't do it right now because it's a little bit dangerous, but we used to fly night vision goggles, low altitude in Hornets. All right. So when you put on night vision goggles, they amplify light like a lot. So you can see a campfire like 50 miles away. So we used to do it. The good spots were down in like El Centro, California. There's a range that there's some bombing ranges, but people go camping in the Superstition Mountains, which is kind of north and west of Imperial by, I forget what it is, the Springs. It's real pretty in the desert. It'll come to me in a minute. So we would go out at night flying around on goggles, and you'd see a campfire, and you go, oh, UFO time. And then you get the airplane going about 600 knots, and then you pull the power back to idle so you can't hear it. And you get zinging towards the fire. Well, you turn the lights are all down because we're in restricted areas, so we can do that. And there's lights on it that you can only see if you're on night vision goggles. So the other airplanes can see us, but no one else can see us. Then you go zinging at it, and then right when you get to the campfire, you pull the airplane into the vertical, you stroke the afterburners, you let them light off, you count to 3, you pull them off, and then you just go away. Instant UFO reporting. Sitting out in the desert, it's all quiet, and then all of a sudden there's a lure, there's lights in the sky, and they go away and it's gone.
The campfire.
So you would do that just to fuck with campers?
Yes.
How rude.
Yes, I did it, but like I said, we have a sick sense of humor.
Yes, I'm
so,
sure.
So some things are explainable because I guarantee there were phone calls made on some of the stuff that we did.
And you're not the only one who's ever done that.
Oh, I'm not that creative, but it's just, you think about it and you go, because people go, I saw this or I saw that because I've got stuff like that. And I go, yeah, I used to create stuff like that, just not tell it.
But now I'm more, the thing I've become obsessed with lately is the skepticism about UFOs.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to talk to you about this, because you told me that you've become with UFOs recently.
Oh, yeah. And it's
Believer?
Yeah, totally.
Really?
I totally believe the UFO phenomena is real. I don't know what it is, but it has to be real.
Why is that?
Because there's way too much evidence that it is real.
What evidence?
radar evidence that the F-16 locked on a UFO, that footage, and also just like I know that friend of ours, I don't know if she wants to say it, but her father was an air traffic controller, and he told her, they said, yeah, every air traffic controller has seen something.
Yeah.
And I had another friend whose father was a commercial pilot, and she said, yeah, my dad said every single pilot has seen something. And they've all been told not to say anything about it.
We have a couple of friends that were abducted.
Yeah.
Yeah, the abducted one is a little easier to wrap your head around because when you're sleeping, your brain is producing all sorts of endogenous psychedelic chemicals.
Yeah.
Almost all of these experiences happen when you're sleeping. Almost all these experiences when these people are abducted, they're taken from their beds, which is when they're dreaming.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like there's some real clear, easy steps to follow if you want to follow Occam's razor and not get crazy with it.
But it knocks those doesn't knock out like Barney and Betty Hill and all the people that are abducted while fully conscious and that remember it without hypnotherapy. The abduction phenomenon. But
I don't know Barney and Betty Hill. I know the story, but I don't know them.
Yeah.
So I would have to know them because there's a lot of people that I've like. I did a show for Sci-Fi called Joe Rogan Questions Everything.
Yeah, I watched that show.
That cured me. That show cured me of a lot of my nonsense with conspiracies.
Well, we used to talk about that stuff all the time.
Yeah, all the time. Yeah, but I needed to actually study it. So for 6 months, that's basically all I did. I interviewed people, and I like Bigfoot believers, UFO believers, and the one thing that they have in common is they all seem to be kind of lost and dependent upon this thing being real.
Yeah.
Right.
Instead of being objective. There's only one lady that I interviewed that saw Bigfoot that really seemed to be telling the truth. But I think she saw a bear. I think bears walk on 2 feet all the time. They do it all the time. There's video footage. You can find it all the time. And she was in the Pacific Northwest, which is incredibly dense woods. You see something, you glimpse it. Look, I was hunting once in Canada, in Alberta, and I thought I saw a wolf for like 2 seconds. It was a squirrel. Okay? Understand this. This
very
is
big
like,
squirrel?
What is that? Wolf? No, it's squirrel.
Yeah.
No, I just saw fur.
Right.
I saw fur, and I was because it's really
But you're
dense
convinced.
woods. Because I was looking for fucking wolves. Because I was like, because I know we did see one wolf. It crossed the road. It was either a wolf or a coyote. It was hard to tell because it was at dusk. It was very dark out. But when you're looking for something, you think everything is that thing you're looking for.
Yeah.
So like for a second, I thought that fucking squirrel was a wolf.
That's funny.
Yeah. Well, expectation and perception are very linked.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, it's also that they found that that 50% of everything you see is a product of memory.
Yes.
That when you observe something, they've done fMRIs, and that most of the activity in the brain is in the memory centers, not in the visual centers.
Interesting.
About 50% of the activity is in the visual centers of the
You
brain.
know, the UFO,
crazy.
The UFO thing, when I was a kid, I went and saw Carl Sagan speak at U of T, at the University of Toronto, and I was like, 14. But he did an equation on the board of the possibility of alien life other than us in the universe. And it came to the smallest, he spent the whole time writing on this chalkboard. It was fascinating. But he actually came up with a number at the end. And it was such a small, he says, there is something out there, but they are so far away that that unless they can go faster than the speed of light, which he said was impossible at the time, this is the 70s.
Yeah.
There's no way we've seen them. That's what he said. So if some other beings have conquered the speed of light thing, then maybe we could see them.
Yeah. That's a thing with that problem with this skepticism in general is like that it like the skeptics of the 19th century were the ones who said germs don't exist.
Right, because we can't see them.
And people who said germs did exist were ridiculed and laughed out of the trade. Right, and
I agree with you, Glee. Just because you can't see it or it isn't happening doesn't mean it can't hapen.
And even Sagan's day, there had been no exoplanets discovered then.
Right.
We now know that there are literally trillions and trillions of Earth-like planets.
Yeah, well, they speculated as to the existence of them outside of our solar system before. The real problem is that if there's a leap, a technological leap that opens the doors to massive innovation. Yeah. That once this happens, and then all this stuff sort of exponentially expands in terms of technological possibilities, all you would need is a few hundred years, and you have an unrecognizable set of technology.
Yeah.
Sure.
You know, I mean...
Well, you were talking CERN. I mean, the whole antimatter idea that they're still trying to figure out.
Yeah.
That's an insane source of energy that we have never even experienced.
Yeah.
You know, with a grain of sand. That can run a city. I mean, it's that big.
Yeah. And then there's also the theory, there's a recent one, that space-time itself doesn't exist. So the speed of light barrier becomes moot because there's, I guess it's the quantum holographic theory of the universe.
Yeah. Is that Michael Talbot's book?
I can't remember.
Holographic Universe? Is that who wrote that?
Yeah, I think so. But the idea that the universe is basically just a geometry that when you look at it from a certain angle seems three-dimensional.
Right, and it folds into itself, so you could travel through. That's the wormhole thing.
It's not even that. It's the idea that space-time is an illusion, and that it doesn't really exist, and that's why entanglement is possible. You know, the idea that spooky action at a distance.
Yes.
That
quantum theory.
Entanglement.
Yeah. But the reason that these atoms on opposite ends of the universe can affect each other instantaneously
at the same moment
is because they're not really at opposite ends of the universe. They're really right next to each other. It just seems like they're at opposite ends of the universe.
Because our we perceive is basically based on what we have to do to stay alive on this planet. So our meager little chimp brains are trying to quantify all of these things that are around us all the time. So we put them into this sort of three-dimensional box of movement and distance and
that the entire universe would be a compact thing that projects itself like a hologram onto a screen.
I love these conversations because I'm clearly too stupid.
And I don't understand anything I just said.
I don't understand you two, so how stupid does that make me?
Well, we stand each other. So
this is perfect.
We're all the same. Yeah.
But that's why, it would be interesting to do a documentary or something about ufology, because one thing is the assumption that they're extraterrestrial is an assumption. But the thing that intrigues me is the power of ridicule to silence even the most intelligent people in our community from examining something. Like the ridicule kept doctors from accepting germs.
Sure.
Because they didn't want to be ridiculed by their peers. And even now, you've got people that will, like Michael Shermer, will cling to the most absurd explanations for phenomena like the F-16 radar footage.
What was?
I remember it, but it was pretty. It really went to great lengths that entailed having to basically diminish any respect you had for any of the people who reported on the events. It had to go into character assassination in order to eliminate it.
Yeah, I'm a skeptic, and I like Michael a lot, and he's been on the podcast many times. But I actually had him debate Randall Carlson and Graham Hancock about these ancient civilizations, and it wasn't very good for him. There were some clunky moments.
Because are believers.
Well, the problem they're believing.
They believe in.
Problem is being a skeptic itself. It's a stupid way to look at the world.
It's actually sure about something.
I mean, you should be objective,
right?
Don't be skeptical,
right?
Being skeptical is like, I don't know, but
I know for sure that that's not true.
But it serves a massive purpose for people that really don't understand things, and he can explain it to you with actual science. As long as the actual science is being used, and it's not character assassination, it's not mockery, it's not. There's certain people that are just debunkers. They can call themselves skeptics, but they're not looking at things like, oh, maybe that is effective, maybe that is healthy, maybe that is interesting. No, they don't look at it that way. No. They're looking at it, they're trying to pick it apart. And that's fine if you can pick it apart. But if you cannot, you have to be objective about the fact that, oh, well, this is a very interesting phenomenon, and this is what we know about science, and this is what we know about this thing. And right now we have a weird conundrum.
Did Chariot's God's man, did he...
Eric Von Daniken.
Was he a believer?
100%. Yeah. He's all
Still
in.
Is.
Still all in. I asked him, the first thing I asked him, I said, what is
Can I pause?
Yeah.
Desperate go pee.
No, go. The first thing I asked him was, what is the most compelling piece of evidence? And he pointed to this Mayan stone plaque that's in Palenque. I don't know if you've ever seen it.
Is it in the book?
Yeah, it's a god, one of their former kings that is lying on his back, and he looks like he's moving some. Jamie, see if you could find that thing. It's this really cool carving that they found that looks like there's a guy who is in a seat, and it looks like there's fire behind his back, and you could say
ship, like he's
you
a
could
ship.
say that he's manipulating controls on a ship, and he's shooting a rocket into the heaven. I would like to see what the mainstream version of that is, because also it could just be art.
Imagination. Right?
It could be that they knew about certain things being propelled by fire. There it is. Yeah, that's it. You see this? I mean, that's a big ass stretch to say that guy's in a ship. I don't know what the fuck that is. He's sitting down.
Looks like an altar, kind of, to me.
He could, yeah, but it does look like he's looking through an eyepiece, right?
That's true.
But what does that mean? Is it a telescope?
don't
Maybe
know.
he's just got a telescope.
Maybe it's just an astronomer.
Yeah, it is possible. I don't think they had telescope.
No.
I don't think a telescope was even invented till.
No. Did they even have glass at that point?
Oh, I don't know. Well, I don't know if the Mayans did.
Wow.
But that was his number one piece of evidence. I was like, that's kind of silly.
I mean, when we were kids in the 70s, Bigfoot, and Chariots of the Gods and everything was so new.
Hey, look at this image. Look at the bottom of it. Even the part where the flame's supposed to be coming out from below him.
Which flame?
Yeah.
Where's the
flame?
flame?
I guess the flame is the shit at the very, very bottom. But I mean, I'm not even sure I buy that. If you were going to draw fire, you do a really shitty job if that's your fire.
That doesn't really look like fire to me. That
No.
looks like
Could be anything.
innate seat
Right.
or something.
Right. If that's fire, like what is all the stuff around him? What's all that stuff? That looks kind of mechanical though, right? It looks like there's bolts.
It does.
Did they have a fire god? Maybe they drew the fire god.
Is that it looks like a monkey kind of face.
With titties. Monkey's got some titties.
Oh, now I get it.
Right?
Yeah.
And then the monkey's, is that his teeth?
It's the first Hooters.
They look like arms, actually.
Right.
Yeah.
It does. It could be arms. But that's the point, is it's so open to interpretation. There's so much that you could see if you're looking to see. But what I do see is this guy who's...
He's reclining in an odd way.
He's chilling,
for sure.
and it looks like he's looking through something.
What's that thing hanging across him? You see that thing across his arm?
Yeah, I don't know what the fuck that is. But here's the thing. I don't think anybody knows what the fuck that is. But so for him to say that this was the number one most compelling evidence.
I mean, were people getting high at this point?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I mean, that could be just some guy got high and
LSD.
carved something.
Yeah, they were making different kinds of plants that had lysergic acid in them. What is this obsessing? What is your more recent obsessing about UFOs? What's the origin of this?
It's part of it is just the fact that the evidence, just the evidence itself, says you have to take this seriously, and yet no one does, or very, very few people do. I mean, even like again, that F-16 footage that even Neil deGrasse Tyson, who is a great skeptic, said on one of the late night talk shows, he said, well, if you really want to look at the possibility of some non-human intelligence, that F-16 stuff is pretty compelling.
What is the F-16 stuff?
That's the stuff that To the Stars Academy put out. It was the CIA.
Oh, yeah, Tom DeLonge?
Yeah.
He's easy.
I've never met him.
On the podcast.
Is he?
Oh, yeah. Very nice guy.
Yeah. What do you see
in the footage?
He's a very nice guy and a brilliant musician.
Yeah.
And he's a loon.
Yeah, I've never
he's
met
a
him.
fucking full-on believer. I mean, he left Blink 182 to go do this To the Stars Academy shit. He's the biggest goddamn rock band on the planet. Okay, here's something interesting. This, and this was pointed out like by a video film by a fighter jet shows an unknown object near San Diego. Video from 2004 was released by the U.S. Department of Defense.
Wow, the way it moves.
There's something about the way it moves is really weird, huh?
It could be a jet, though. Jets can move that way.
One of the pilots told the media the object was not from this world.
Yeah. And here's the thing. It's like the skeptics, in order to dismiss it, they have to go... Well, they have to make arguments like that jet fighters are not better observers than anyone else.
Pull up Mick Ward's take on that. Mick Ward, the guy who he runs what is it? Metabunk. He runs a debunking site. And he's another one of those guys that is all in with the conventional explanation. Like he goes way out of his way to not look at anything that could be at
Which
least
is the opposite of Occam's
conspiratorial.
razor.
Yes.
Occam's razor says, that if you have to go to great lengths to dismiss something.
Right.
That's not following Occam's razor.
Right.
Right. Razor says if the jet pilot says he saw this, he saw it.
I think he had an interesting take on it, though. And one of the things was there's a time during the video where the pilot shifted from 1x to 2x, which makes the image move more because you have magnification. Like, if you ever use magnifying glasses or binos, like if you use 15x binos, it's very difficult to hold on a subject.
Steady,
But 6 you can kind of look at things in the distance.
Yeah, but that's if you don't have about $3 worth of stabilization equipment on your jet locked onto this object.
Right.
Which is why that stays in lock.
He had an
for all
explanation,
of
though,
it.
that was kind of interesting.
And when it breaks free of the lock,
How does it
that's
take off?
unbelievable.
Does it just take off or something like that?
It just, at one point, just the object just breaks free of the lock. And that's almost impossible.
I have a question.
It's impossible for anything that man
Why
has
is
built
this,
to do.
With the quality of cameras today, why is this footage so shitty?
This is infrared
It's
footage.
infrared footage.
Yeah. Infrared.
Yeah, I mean, you need this when you're shooting at things in the sky. You can't rely
It's a
on
blurry
visualization.
blob.
You're looking at heat. You're looking at signals.
Because visually, it's so far, it would be essentially
escaping the
invisible.
rabbit hole. How to debunk conspiracy theories using fact, logic, and
That's
respect.
interesting.
So what is he saying? What is he saying? The program. Make that a little larger for my stupid eyes. It said, for all, make sure you are talking about the right video. There's two that are confused. Here we're talking about the gimbal video, which is not from the Nimitz incident, which is discussed here. So scroll down a little bit. The gimbal video is that's the one we're looking at. It's an unknown date and location from unknown pilots. Nope. The TikTok one is from
Those
San
are
Diego.
known pilots.
Yeah, that's 2004. Okay, that's David Ferver. The media's discussed these videos. Tom belongs to the stars. The link contains the frames. What's he saying? Keep going. The black shape on the object, some kind of infrared flare glare. We know the shape of a very bright infrared source, like the engine of a plane, can be much bigger than the object itself, as explained here. Okay, so there's like a flare.
That doesn't explain the movement.
Yeah, it
No,
doesn't
it
explain
doesn't explain the movement. It doesn't explain, again, Occam's razor is, okay, so this guy debunking it.
This guy's saying it's a
Look at it.
jet.
It looks nothing like it.
Even if it is a jet's not capable of breaking free from the lock, right?
Yeah.
If they lock onto it.
And if you look at that, you can see the jet.
Yeah.
His own example debunks his debunking.
Right. Need not be moving.
Yeah.
The video need not be moving.
And it's also the assumption that this guy, doing probably a few hours research, has come up with something that is more credible than a trained fighter pilot who is there and visually seeing it.
What do you think it
and
is?
tracking it.
If you had to guess.
I don't know.
Let's
it is
another planet.
it is an intelligent craft. It is a craft being piloted intelligently.
Why aren't they talking to us?
We're fucking apes.
Why would you? Yeah, it's like
don't talk to us.
Like if
We're
you're-
assholes.
When you look at it, when you look at
the air.
No, I forgot. You're right.
Fucking plastic straws everywhere.
That's right. Yeah.
Oh, we cured it. No
That's
more
right.
plastic straws.
when you're looking at an ant colony, you didn't go, "Listen to me, ants."
Yes.
You just looked at them. You know, there was
I
and they say,
agree.
why don't they go to the White House? So, why would you, when you look at an ant colony, go, "I must speak to the Queen"?
Right.
You know.
Yes.
No.
I've always said
you
that.
just look at
Yeah.
ants.
Yeah, that's what the most ridiculous thing about like the old movies. Like the old movie Land on the White House Lawn.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
like right?
Yeah.
Like what is
Day the Earth Stood Still.
That's it. Yeah. Baratu Niktu,
Yeah, yeah.
whatever that thing was. Yeah.
Klaatu,
Niktu,
Barata,
yeah.
Niktu.
Yeah, that's the Day the Earth Stood Still was like what was that, 1940 or something?
50s,
54,
55.
something like that. Fucking great movie. I watched it really recently.
Because it's a
Remember
Christ.
the-
I love
remember
Christ
they-
parables.
A little
Christ
bit,
stories
yeah.
are great.
He was a Christ parable.
Yeah, well, his name was
right.
John Carpenter.
Oh, that's
Oh,
right.
was it?
JC.
That's right.
Christ was a carpenter.
What do they do? Don't they
right.
shoot that object out of his hand the first second he pulls it out? Do you remember he has a thing that's going to
Yes.
cure cancer?
Yeah, they shoot him. They shoot.
And they shoot it out of his hand immediately.
Yeah, and then at the end of the movie, he is killed and resurrected.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah, they
He's-
shoot him and he comes
he's
back
taken
to life.
by the robot takes
Yeah.
him. To,
Yeah, the robot.
So-
Yeah,
Love
what a
that
goofy robot.
Yeah.
Very tall.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
and like looked like you would want a robot to look in 1950.
Yes. Yeah.
All
Smooth.
metal and shit, smooth. Yeah.
Chrome.
Yeah, those were the days. We thought that they would communicate. Like, wasn't there a whole rash of them that were seen over Washington D.C.?
Yeah, there was dozens.
Yeah,
Dozens of UFOs tracked and admitted by the government that they were tracking them and watching them. But they essentially, and then at the end, their explanation was nothing particularly important.
You know, we have a mutual friend who claims, I won't say her name, but she claims she was...
I feel bad because I wrote her off as a lunatic when I first heard it.
Yeah, well, she was claimed to be abducted.
Yeah.
And then I was doing a show with her years ago, and she was telling us the story. I'm like, that's pretty funny. And she says, and then they took a scoop out of my back. And I'm like, a scoop? They took a scoop out of your back? And she showed on her back shoulder, there was a hexagonal diamond-shaped scoop out of her back. A divot. It
was hexagonal?
Yeah, that was...
Clearly?
Clearly. And no scar tissue.
Maybe she's a crazy...
No scar tissue, man.
I know how to make this story stick.
Yeah.
Give a little punch.
But
a hole punch back there.
I worked at a bookstore at the time, years ago, and I went into the alien section. It was the world's biggest bookstore in Toronto. That was the name of it. And of course, I went to the alien section and just looked all this crap up immediately, and there are other people with the scoop.
Well, there's a lot of other people with
know.
abduction stories. Some of them have like little pieces of something in their body. I remember you talking to me about this many, many years ago. I was like, Dave's interested. And so you were talking about people that have alien implants in their body.
Yeah. I think to me, it's just, I guess the thing that I'm kind of obsessed with now is just because we're comedians.
Yes.
And the power of ridicule to silence debate is unbelievably potent.
Sure.
And we're part of that. We're part of the machinery that was used very, very consciously by the government to silence any inquiry. You know, it was like, feeding the story the right way to late night talk show hosts. Made it so that nobody would talk about it.
So do you think that they consciously fed those ideas to like Johnny Carson and those folks?
Yeah, to make the UFO phenomena ridiculous.
Do you think they did that to avoid mass hysteria? Like if you're the government and you know there's nothing out there, but you see these people freaking out, you go, okay, look, we've used all of our military might, all of our scientific power, and we don't see shit. I'm not buying this, but these people are freaking out. This has the real potential to get out of hand and go sideways on us. Let's just start making fun of this.
Yeah, I think it's more likely that there's something there that they feel powerless to control.
Do you think Kennedy was down into the basement of whatever and shown the alien sitting there?
This is what I say of aliens in regards to Trump. If there's anybody that would fucking tell us it's
him.
Trump.
He tweeted immediately.
He would tweet it. He would tweet it.
Looking at an alien.
UFOs are real, but CNN is fake.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still the failing New York Times fails to find UFOs because they're
looking
real.
At one right now.
I'm at Area 50.
It does have the evidence. They are never going to show it to Trump.
Right, that's the problem.
Yeah.
Like, what's the point in being president if you can't find out about UFOs?
Yeah.
If I knew that to become president meant you get all the access to UFOs, I might go,
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll make a try for that.
No one gets it.
Like Jimmy Carter, said he had a UFO experience.
Yeah, he saw it, right? Yeah. He said he saw something. But see, that was back in the 70s where everybody was seeing shit. They were all talking about things. It was part of the zeitgeist.
It was.
People were legit, like after Close Encounters of the Third Kind, especially, people were legitimately thinking that aliens were going to come.
Yeah, he proposed a possible scenario in that movie.
It was so good.
It wasn't anything you expected it was going to be.
But like here, I was going to say, here, like another example is like the Rendlesham, like that of the F-16's locked, footage, like Rendlesham Forest, where they claimed that these American soldiers in the woods out in England mistook a lighthouse light for a spacecraft. That they were within 20 feet of a craft that they saw and took notes on, did drawings of. Yeah, they walked not even like right up against it. And they, wrote down notes, saw like different sort of hieroglyphs on the ship itself, described the feel of it, this electrostatic feel of being around it. And the official explanation was they mistook a lighthouse several miles away for this spacecraft. So Occam's razor again says, that's hard to believe that these trained observers, and that's the other thing, they always try to dismiss the idea that trained observers are better observers. But they are better observers.
Sure.
In the age of today, everyone has a high definition camera in their pocket.
But have you taken a photo of the moon on
It's
your
hard. Yeah, it's
on your
true. It
phone,
comes out
doesn't look
crappy.
like the moon.
That's true.
Yeah,
Right.
no
That's true.
details.
Comes out as a
Because
blur.
the lenses are too wide. But Occam's razor says, all right, they saw something, but they, because what is the likelihood that trained observers who have been on this base for years on this night would mistake a lighthouse that they've seen every night for the entire time they've been on this base for a UFO? I mean, what is the likelihood that that explanation is correct?
I'm not aware.
Rendlesham Forest? Yeah.
How do you say it?
Bentwoods.
How do you spell it?
Rendlesham. Rendlesham.
Rendlesham Forest.
Yeah, it was Bentwoods. It was 2 nights.
Sounds like a character actor on Columbo.
where there was and it's a nuclear installation.
And Rendlesham Forest.
The nuclear installations are always ripe with UFO stories.
Yeah.
What year was this?
This was in the 80s.
1980.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And it's, and it said, obviously the obvious explanation is, well, not the explanation, but the only thing you can accept is that these observers saw something and described it accurately.
Is it something that had crashed?
If you want to say that, no, it came down, was landed in the forest, and then took off.
What do you think of the Roswell case?
The night before that, Roswell, I think it's probably true.
Real? You're all in.
Yeah.
Wow, Dave, I never knew that.
But I mean, because
it's interesting.
Again, because the cover stories for it are so much less believable than an alien.
Yeah, I used to have a joke about it. That they put on the paper that they have recovered a crashed UFO and alien bodies. And the next day they said, we made a mistake. It was just a balloon. Well, what about the bodies?
Yeah.
What about the aliens?
It's a balloon.
Yeah.
Those are Mexicans.
Yeah.
They were Mexicans. They were drinking. Apparently they thought the balloon was a piñata. They got a little crazy.
See, I'm believing you right now.
But we just invented some new stuff out of nowhere.
And then 30 years later they go, they were altitude dummies that we were dropping.
That's right.
To test how they would fall.
And now we have laser invisibility cloaks.
Well, they put up again the next day with a bunch of weather balloon scraps. And they're like, look, this is it.
Yeah. Oh, the guy holding it up like a little...
But what they don't tell you is that they flew the wreckage out to Wright-Patterson Air Force in 2 separate planes and that Truman met them there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, rational...
2 separate planes.
Because they were worried that one would crash.
The weather balloon thing is not as rational as something weird happened.
Listen, I want it to be an alien so bad that
me
I
too.
question myself. So that's my problem.
I want it
with
to be,
all that stuff.
But I won't I'll be skeptical about stuff that just seems crazy, or people that believe sort of ascribe some sort of metaphysical explanation for all this. My thing is just, well, if the preponderance of the evidence says something happened, but doesn't tell you what happened, then you still have to believe something happened. Not knowing what happened isn't evidence that it didn't happen.
And yet you're still afloat.
Well, have you...
The Joe Rogan Experience.
Aykroyd's crazy into UFOs. He's like one of the main celebrities they pull up when people start talking about like UFO real believers. He's done like little clips where he narrates things, UFO shows and shit. He fucking believes.
Well, didn't they just release that there's even more belief now about UFOs?
Fun. I don't know if it's real, but it's fun. That's how I feel.
Doug, I did a podcast with Jim Florentine, and I explained to Jim Florentine that what people don't know is that Hudson County, New Jersey, northern New Jersey, is the #1 place in the country where they have the most UFO sightings.
Really? Northern New Jersey.
Look it up, Jamie, if you get a minute, please, not to be rude.
But isn't that like near a couple airports?
No, it's closer to like like when you live in New York City and you look at the Hudson River. They say that people go on their balcony, they're drinking coffee, they're talking on the phone, and they'll see a little flying saucer go by.
Really?
And I know for a fact that in 1976,
a little one,
whatever the fuck they are, I know for a fact that in 1975 and 1976, you could check me out on this. A UFO landed in Hudson County Park. I was a kid, and the next day the feds locked off the park. They had yellow tape. They had samples. Go look it up, dog. There's a UFO. You see that's called, North Bergen is where I'm from. That's called, I forget what it's called, but it's a circular building. So they did so much coke in there in the 80s, they called it the grinder. That's what they called it, because it was shaped like the Stonehenge. The Stonehenge. I have a couple that lived there. People that lived in that building have seen UFOs for fucking years. And if you go to YouTube, there's an actual North Hudson Park UFO. Wow. They dug up, they came out, there's a liquor store And the liquor store guy says he's seen the lights.
Mhm.
You heard like the organ music that they play. Ooh. They landed. A couple Martians got out and took samples and got back in the thing and took off. There's a YouTube thing. There's a History Channel special about it. And I still remember being a young kid.
Did you find anything, Jamie?
Not give.
It's just, that was what's popping up. All that stuff about that building and.
Oh,
some
yeah.
things.
No.
Is there anything that says a UFO landed?
That's the story I'm reading right now. Is what he's saying. Yeah.
And witnesses. It's not just one guy that says, "I know UFO." It's people who got knocked on the door and said, "Did you see anything at 11:10 at night?" And they said, "You know what? There were lights flashing outside." They contacted police departments to see if there was any. They went full. Then the FBI came in, circled the park. It was by the Little League field in Hudson County. But it is, like you'd think it was Area 51. You'd think it was close to northern Las Vegas. The number one place to see UFOs is northern New Jersey. They even made a reference to it in The Sopranos. When he said something, he goes, "What are you talking about? Last week you said you seen a UFO in Hackensack." Because that's where they're at. Hackensack, Moonachie.
Right.
All those. You ever go to Moonachie, New Jersey? A lot of ugly people. A lot of people with big heads. The only good thing in Moonachie, New Jersey is fucking Segovia, Spanish restaurant. It's been there since 19 fucking Schlemensky. I don't know. But that's the only good thing about Moonachie. I think those people in Moonachie have been abducted. There you go. And they back as big-headed motherfuckers.
I did a gig there a couple times.
There used to be like a bar. There's a bar that did something in Moonachie.
Was that a Bob Gonzo gig?
Yeah, outside the Sea Caucus.
Was it?
Yeah, it's outside. No. I think Bob is more down the shore. And
He had
stuff.
he had gigs all over
He had
the
gigs
place.
all over, Bob. How I met Bob is he did a gig in Romano's Italian restaurant in my hometown. And my buddy's like, "Hey, aren't you a comedian? Let's take you up there." And we went up there, and Bob's like, "I don't know him." He's an unknown. And next thing Bob came up to me, he's like, "Dog, I got to put you up because my friends threatened me." So Bob put me up, and we've become friends ever since.
That's awesome.
I think I follow him on Facebook. We have a chat from time to time on Facebook. But yeah, for you UFO motherfuckers, look into northern New Jersey. That's the fucking motherload of them.
That's interesting. I had read before, but I kind of
There you go.
51 UFO sightings in 2018. You get biased because the story is always some person in the woods and they get abducted. They see a UFO in some strange town in the middle of nowhere. The aliens land, abduct people. You always think about it being a rural thing. But if I was an alien, of course I'd go to New York City. Of course I'd go to New Jersey. What the fuck? Why wouldn't you? You want to go see the craziest thing we have? You got like 7 million people stuffed together on a fucking tiny island in comparison to the rest of the planet. Stuff stacked on top of each other. Awesome, amazing buildings. All these lights at Times Square. Look at all these people mulling around, traveling over these bridges to get to this one hub, this one hive of humanity. Of course, if I was an alien, I would check that out. Why would I look at a barn? You know what I mean?
You used to joke that the United States is the Tijuana
of outer space.
Of outer space. Like they're like, what are we doing this weekend? We're going to fucking.
They come down when they're fucking. They want to see a show.
They want to.
That was the whole bit. Is that I think aliens come here when they're high. They just get fucked up. They're like, come on, let's go check out the monkeys. Let's go, dude. Come on, let's abduct a couple of them. Have a good time. Let's go see the monkey people.
I never saw a fucking UFO.
I want to. I never know.
I want to land and I want to see one of those green dudes get out. So I
think I thought I saw some shit when I was a kid, but as I got older, I thought that was like a fighter jet or something. That's what that was. Like there was something. God, it's a real sketchy memory. It's one of those memories that's like barely active. But I remember thinking for like a day or two when I was like a little kid, maybe I saw a UFO. But I think I was trying to convince myself of it. I was bored. But I think it was a jet. I think it was something fast and unusual. Have you ever seen one of those stealth bombers? That looks like a fucking UFO. Have you ever seen one of those things in the sky?
No, yes.
It looks like a Star Wars
Like when
movie.
you go to like a Blue Angel fucking thing, those planes.
Yeah,
that
they'll
they
probably.
use?
No, those are like, I think those are FA-18s. That's what I think it is. I think that's what that is. I flew in one of those. I had a bit about that too. Yeah, you got to do that. You hold on to the hand. You got to do it. You hook. You either hold on to your handle if you're steering the plane, or you hold on to your straps if you're a passenger. I was in the passenger seat, so I grabbed a hold of my straps, and you have to go like this, hoot, 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 and you have to force blood into your brain to stay awake. That's how much G-force you're going through. It's insane.
Force blood into your brain to stay awake.
See, that's one of those stealth bombers. I saw one of those air over, I guess it's Edwards Air Force Base. Is that what the one it is? That's Edwards, the one that's out near Palmdale? I think that's it. Because we used to film Fear Factor in Palmdale, and we saw that thing fly overhead like that. Look at that thing. Tell me that doesn't look like it's from another planet. When you're on the ground and you see that fly overhead, you're like, what the fuck is that? So I think that's responsible for a bunch of the things that people saw. I think it's military crafts.
Can I ask you a question on that article you pulled up, the 51 sightings? What type of sightings do you
Look
have?
at this fucking thing.
What is considered a sighting?
Well, the thing is, like, you just see shit. But how do you know if... What are you doing, Jim?
These are the sightings.
Okay, but go back to that video. Look at that thing. I mean, come on. If you're just sitting on the ground, you saw that, you're like, they're coming! The aliens are coming! That does not look like it's from this world. That thing is madness.
Especially with those two guys next to him.
God, it's fucking beautiful, though. Like, what an amazing design. That thing flying through, it looks like something on a keyboard. You know, it looks like a symbol on a keyboard. And it's just flying perfectly through the air. That looks like the future. I mean, that really does look like it's from another world. I would imagine, like, little blue dudes with black eyes and blah, talking to each other in that thing. Going through fucking wormholes and shit. I mean, that's what that thing looks like. And what's the thing that they're going to have 100 years from now? Just imagine that.
I just want to know what the logistics is for it to be considered a legitimate sighting.
Legitimate sighting?
Legitimate sighting.
It just means it's odd. You know, you don't, like, if you're a lawyer, okay, and you see something, and then you convince yourself that what you saw was something extraordinary, and you have the feeling that you're looking at something from another world. But if it's just some drone or some military vehicle, and then you look at it, and then you convince yourself, then it becomes a bigger and bigger deal in your head. That's a problem with people. It doesn't mean that everybody that sees something is seeing that, but people are kind of full of shit.
Well, let's say there's a 1-800 call Martian. Mm-hmm. All right. I see a fucking thing. I call that thing.
1-800 Martian.
Yeah, call Martian. Okay, whatever the fuck.
Okay.
1-800 Martian.
Right.
The phone won't stop ringing. Okay, the phone won't stop ringing. It will never stop ringing.
There'll be people talking to Martians.
My concern is, when do they consider it credible? What does it take for it to be credible? For me, for it to be credible, I got to see the motherfucker land and get out.
My take is usually military guys. When you have military fighter pilots, that's an extraordinary human. If you can be one of those guys that flies one of those B-2s, for them to trust you with that $1 billion fucking spaceship, dude, you got to be an exceptional human. There's no room for someone who's full of shit. You're going to be a top flight fighter pilot. You're going to fly around with gunfights in the sky, because that's what they do. They have gunfights in the fucking sky. Those guys are exceptional human beings. So when they see something, that's when I listen, for sure. Everybody else, I'm not that I wouldn't listen, but I don't know. You know, you might be crazy. But you might be crazy even if you're in the military. You might be crazy if you're a fighter pilot. It's 100% possible.
So those pilots and all those Air Force pilots that do test runs or whatever, they say that they see things.
There's a bunch of sightings. Not only a bunch of sightings, there's a bunch of sightings from the really credible guys. What is this? Fleet of UFOs followed U.S. aircraft Navy pilot says.
Yeah,
May
this is
29th.
what I'm talking about.
See, these guys are talking about these things. These aren't guys with histories of embellishing things. They have this, whatever that is. Is that radar? What are they looking at? Is that infrared? Like, what is that screen that they're looking for? Does it say what kind of image it is? Because it's like a weird look. It's not like a photograph, right? It's like a weird computer image. Because it's detecting it, right, with some piece of equipment, right? Isn't it? Like tracking it on radar or something like that?
I know what you're saying because I feel like I've heard that description of it too, but this article just says it's video of 2 aerial encounters.
That's tremendous.
But that video doesn't look very clear. Why isn't it clear? My phone does a better job than that shit.
They don't have very good cameras on those.
Cameras,
they have good cameras. I mean, they don't have good ones, but like in order to catch movement at that high speed up there, yada, yada, all that stuff.
Oh, so it would require some exceptional gear.
I think. And it could have also been at night. I don't know. what time of day it was.
So convenient. So convenient that they never have a clear picture. That drives me fucking crazy. It drives me fucking crazy because if it is real, I want it to be real. Honestly, I really do. But when I look at it, I go, God damn, so many people are so crazy and so many people are so full of shit.
You personally, and so do I,
dun, dun, dun.
that there's other galaxies out there. There has to be.
Well, there are definitely galaxies, other civilizations.
Other civilizations.
Yeah.
Some form somewhere. Out of the 9 planets, there's got to be something.
Brian,
I don't know what. I'm not going to sit here and tell you what they're called or whatever, but there has to be something. At this point, you have to believe that.
The universe is big. It's just too big to discount, to say, nope, I doubt it. Like, that's so crazy to say. Just because we haven't seen it yet, it's so big.
There's the explanation of what he caught and what.
He said that though tracking radar and infrared cameras on his aircraft detected UFOs both times, he was unable to capture them on his helmet camera. Okay.
So maybe he couldn't look at it, get it in good vision or whatever. I don't
Maybe.
know. Yeah. I don't
Yeah.
know. Or that's a good reason why he.
I would imagine as fast as those goddamn things are going, it must be really hard to get a camera
what
to
he
be able
just
to
says
constantly
there?
focus in and out. And
Interesting. He says that Lieutenant Ryan Graves,
Graves,
a squadron of UFOs followed his Navy strike group up and down the eastern coast of the U.S. for months. That's, I'm telling you, that little fucking. I read something about the Hudson River, that all those people that live across the Hudson River, whether on the Weehawken and Edgewater side or the west side of Manhattan, those are where the people on their balconies see all that shit.
look at this shit. We did issues with them when we went to the Middle East, Lieutenant Graves said. Imagine them following the war. Imagine if they were alien and they came down to follow the war. So they see the war going on in Iraq, Afghanistan. They come down and they're checking it out.
Just to go on the cynical side of this, they're not necessarily saying they are an alien ship. They're saying it's a UFO, so it's something they're not sure of. What if it's some sort of awesome drone that some Middle Eastern company has and it can just follow shit or move faster or something? Who
Sure.
knows? I don't know.
That would be the more likely explanation, right? Terrestrial would be more likely that someone has advanced shit. We know they have advanced shit. I mean, we know they have incredible drones. You know, I mean, the stuff that they can do.
Sorry, they got drones. There's SEALs. You put razor blades on them, and they slit your fucking throat when you're driving. That's how good the technology is on those drones.
Jesus Christ. I wouldn't be shocked if they could do all kinds of things that
you
we
could
can't
be
expect.
standing there, and they could take the drone to just come down, and fucking they put razor blades on them or some shit.
Well, you could totally see someone having a small drone, like a small thing, like the size of a burger, that has poison in it, and just slam it into somebody. I could see that. But you're seeing, when you're seeing stuff that's flying around the sky, most likely is made by a person, because people make stuff, and people know how to make stuff that flies around the sky. But then when you get to shit that like defies physics, like some of the things these fighter pilots see, that's when you got to go, wait a minute. You see these extraordinary feats of traversing distances, like they can get from one place to another place so fast it looks like they disappear. This is something they all talk about. They all talk about the insane speed at which these things can go. They can just change angles. They can just go and then take a hard right angle turn. They can do stuff that nothing that we know how to make can do. That's where it gets to be like, whoa, like nothing. It's not like it's like, oh, that's like a fighter jet, but like really fast. You know what I'm saying? It's like an alien car. Oh, it's like a car, but it's way faster. Like it's an alien car. But this is not like anything that we make. These fucking things, they fly this way, they say, flat, like a plate hovering over the ground. But when they go to fly, when they go to take off, they flip up sideways. And they have like the bottom of the spaceship is pointing towards where it wants to go. And it does something to space and time, make some sort of fucking magnetic gravity connection, insert big spooky words, whatever. They don't know how the fuck it does it, right? This thing can go like insane distances in insanely small amounts of time. Then when they all report the same kind of behavior of these, I mean, so many of these reports are like that. They're talking about this thing that goes insanely fast, turns on its side. It looks like a Tic Tac. It looks like a saucer. It looks like they're trying to figure out what the fuck the shape is because it's moving so goddamn fast. but it's doing stuff that nothing we know how to make can do. I don't know if it's from another planet. It might be from here, but it's exciting. It's exciting shit. I want it to be from another planet. That's what I want, like unbiased, like what I would love it. Just be completely honest. I would love it if it was aliens. But if it was people, I'd be even more scared. Because, wait, goddamn, people can do that? People can do that and no one knew? Like if you can imagine a person who can make a spaceship that defies all of the rules that we know about travel, about air travel. If they can make something that defies all that shit and somehow or another keep the whole development and production of it a secret, and then have this thing and take it off and no one knows how the fuck they did it, that's almost more impressive than aliens. Because that's what these things are doing is if these pilots are accurately reading what's happening and they're telling the truth, the thing that's remarkable is their stories are very consistent. There's a lot of very similar stories from different people that they make a living flying super fast warships. They see things. They know what the fuck they're looking at. They see something they don't know. They're like, what in the fuck is that? When they see something like that, that freaks me out. That's when it gets me. Because when some fucking kid's riding his bike to school and he looks up and he sees a UFO, okay, maybe it did happen. Maybe it did happen. Maybe the kid's being 100% honest. Or maybe he was bored. Maybe he was bored and decided to make up a crazy story and then stuck with it. And then after a while telling it, maybe he believed it himself. That happens too. People see things. They don't know what they're seeing, and they decide that it's a different thing. I've said this before, but it's a true story. When I was in Alberta, there's wolves there, and I thought I saw a wolf for like a whole second. It was a squirrel. It was a fucking squirrel. But I saw gray fur movement wolf squirrel. Like, if you're dumb, or if you're compromised, or if maybe you're a little drunk, maybe you're a little tired, maybe you just saw something that looked really weird because of, whatever weather conditions that are affecting some part of the world you live in. There's things called ball lightning, flies through the air. It looks like a UFO. You ever see that shit? It's like a real natural phenomenon. Somebody might see something like that and then add a bunch of other shit to it. And that's where you get a lot of these stories. You get like natural phenomenon and then people adding a bunch of shit to things. But then on top of that, you have credible stories, and you can't throw out any of them. Like it's when you look at all these things, you can't decide just because there's a bunch of crackpot stories about UFOs that the ones by legitimate fighter pilots, that those aren't real. You can't look at it that way. It's crazy to look at it that way because it's more likely there's something out there than there isn't something out there. It's way more likely.
When I was a kid and that happened in Hudson Park, I wrote it off. I didn't even pay attention. I remember riding my bike up there, seeing the Fed tape and seeing people with those orange protective suits on.
Yeah.
And I was like, these people are fucking out of my mind. Then one night I got high 5 or 6 years ago, and I saw it. And somebody had posted on Facebook or YouTube, and I read more and more into it. And I discounted it until I read the accounts of the 28 people.
Yeah.
In that building, the liquor store, there was a guy who had just got dropped off a bus from New York. There's buses drop you off there from New York.
Mm-hmm.
The bus driver said there was a flash. He couldn't, there were just so many people with stories that, they didn't see a fucking guy get out. Only 3 people saw people get out.
Mm.
Everybody else discounted the lights and the noise and the other bullshit that went with it. I would have shit my fucking pants if I lived in that building and saw 3 little Martians get out. Or it could just be fucking who knows? Who gives a fuck?
Yeah, man.
I just wanted to tell you that's where
people can get freaked out, and they can think all kinds of things that didn't really happen.
Hey, one was on acid. I thought it was I thought the FBI was out there with dogs. And I went out the next day, it was fucking a fire hydrant, all right? I dumped an ounce of Coke down the toilet.
Oh, my God.
Because I hallucinated. Because when you do Coke for more than fucking 10 hours, you start hallucinating. I started hallucinating. I thought it was fucking dogs and it was a fire hydrant. You know how stupid I felt the next day? Pretty fucking stupid. Pretty fucking stupid. I sat there and I went over and petted the hydrant. You fuck. You fuck.
This is a problem with any story, like all these fucking UFO stories. It's people's memory. Memory's not that good. It's just not that good. It's too hard to figure out what it actually looked like after you saw it. Like you see something crazy like a year ago, and then you try to describe it. It's too hard to describe. Like you barely remember it. Your version of it is a rehashed version that you keep repeating to yourself. You know, if you saw something, like say if you were hiking and you saw a wolf, right? If you saw that wolf, when you try to describe that moment you saw that wolf years later, like what are you actually seeing when you're going into your memory? How accurate is it? We're always lying about how accurate our memory is. It's not that good. Like if you did see a wolf, which is an extraordinary moment, right? You're in the fucking forest. You're like, it's a fucking wolf. That's a wolf. And you see a real wolf looking down on you, a wild motherfucker in the woods of Canada, just looking at you, staring at you on a trail. Like that's an extraordinary moment. But if you try to recount that in your mind 10 years later, what do you actually see? How much do you actually see? You see this blurry, weird, fucking misty version, and you've got some words that fall into place that can describe it. But how accurate is your fucking memory? It's terrible.
How accurate?
Statistics.
Okay.
Like I can tell you about fights. I can tell you what year someone fought. I can tell you how this guy won and how he beat this many guys with a triangle, and I remember things. But if I actually have to remember what it actually looked like in my head, I can't really pull that up. I barely can pull it up. If I see it, I'll recognize it again. You know? Like you show me Joe Schilling knocking out Melvin Manhoef in Bellator. I watched that KO so many times. A wild, crazy slugfest. And if I see it, I'm watching it happen in a video. I remember it. Yep, this is how it goes. Here it goes. Boom! He KOs him. But if I had to just pull that out of my brain right now, it's not good. Do you know what I'm saying? Like if I have to close my eyes and pretend I saw Mike Tyson knock out Michael Spinks, I kind of can see little flashes. I can kind of remember weird little parts of it. I remember the final right hand. Boom! He just sends him flying through the ropes. It was chaos. It was just like he's the best ever. But if I had to play it back in my head, it wouldn't be nearly as good as a video of it. Let me ask you this, because you're this big coast-to-coast Art Bell fan.
Right.
How much of that UFO stuff do you pay attention to? None. Yeah, me
Zero.
Too.
When people contact me on LinkedIn and their major credential is they do a UFO magazine or something like that, I don't add them.
I used to love that stuff. I used to think it was so interesting and intriguing until I started actually paying attention to it.
Yeah.
When I started interviewing some of the people that are involved in the movement, you find the same thing over and over again. This just wanton disregard for reality. This absolute desire to prove something instead of looking at the objective facts, proving that aliens are real, proving that we've been contacted, proving that these eyewitness testimonies are legitimate.
Let me try to cross a weird idea. Okay? Once upon a time in the 1940s, there were two guys, Konrad Lorenz and Nico Tinbergen, who got a Nobel Prize for inventing a field called ethology, which is a certain kind of observation of animal behavior. And Nico Tinbergen would go off to the coastal cliffs around northern Europe. And he would observe these seabirds. And the seabirds would go out, I don't know how many miles, 10, 30, 40 miles out to the ocean to feed and bring back food for their young. And then they would come back at the end of the day, and their nests, they'd have 200 nests next to each other, but the nests had very low walls. So when the seabird came back from her fishing and waddled herself into place, moving her hind back and forth to get in place to incubate her chicks, to warm the eggs, she'd often knock an egg out. And when the egg was knocked out of the nest, the bird would reach her beak out past the egg and then pull her beak back in toward her chest to pull the egg toward the nest, and she'd do it over and over again until she got the egg in the nest. And Nico Tinbergen had this weird idea, I wish I knew where it came from, that this is a reflex, like when your doctor takes a hammer and hammers your knee and your leg shoots out and you had nothing to do with it. he figured this is the same kind of a reflex. And he figured that if you have a reflex, you need a trigger for the reflex, like that patellar hammer that hammered your knee. So he looked to see if there was a trigger that triggered this yanking your beak back in order to scoop the egg back into the nest. And he tried building artificial eggs to see if he could find out what the cues were in the egg that were causing this reaction in the bird. And finally, he got a super egg, which means, it was bigger than the normal egg, it was browner than the normal egg, and he'd put the real egg. Now, if you're the bird, that real egg has your genetic legacy. It's your genetic future. A lot is riding on that egg, a lot of you. And the phony egg. And the phony egg would attract the bird so strongly that she would ignore her own egg and yank, yank, yank with her beak until she pulled the phony egg into the nest.
Oof.
And they continued to do research with this kind of thing, and they discovered that they could trick some songbirds into taking a basketball into their nest. And then when the poor little birds tried to get on top of the basketball to incubate it, they would slide off, and they'd be very frustrated, and they would climb back on again and slide off again. It was cruel.
So the phony eggs like fake tits.
Those is called supernormal stimuli. And the idea is that they bring these reflexive reactions.
Yes.
Underlying what Adolf Hitler was doing, underlying what I was doing, dancing on that stage, underlying what you do in front of an audience when you get incandescent and lose yourself and something else talks through you. All that is related to some supernormal pattern in us.
Yes.
So Hitler was basically saying the world is about to end and the kingdom of God is coming. Except the kingdom of God, in his case, was the world will be controlled by the master race, the blonde and blue-eyed Aryans, and all other people will be slave people or will be exterminated. But it was this golden paradise that he was inviting the Germans to, in which they ruled the world because they were born to rule the world.
So, and how did you have the stimulation? Super
stimulus.
So the supernormal stimulus of this artificial egg is like supernormal stimulus of this extreme behavior at the podium that attract people in.
And basically, Hitler was saying, was talking about the equivalent of extraterrestrials. He was talking about this magic quality of the Germans. He was talking about the shared soul of the Germans and how the people in Wagner operas and the gods of the old Germans had been in the souls of these people, and he was evoking the group soul, the Zeitgeist. In this case, it's the Volkgeist, the spirit of a people. And the flying saucer people are after an end of the world in which the world will be remade. And a guy named, there was a Jewish kid from a backward town, a really backward town, who only had been trained in manual skills. And he started preaching. And he preached that the world was, as we know, it was about to end, and we were about to enter a new kind of paradise. And because he was Jewish, he figured it's got to happen at Passover. Because at Passover, you put out a cup for Elijah, and Elijah's there to precede the Savior, the guy who will save the Jewish people. So he went up to the holiest city in Judaism, to Jerusalem, and he had a dinner, this Passover dinner, and they put out the cup, and that's when the kingdom of God was supposed to arrive. His prediction of a kingdom of God arriving at that particular Passover ceremony turned out to be utterly wrong. And in fact, the Romans seized him and nailed him to a cross. And he died. It was the opposite of everything he'd predicted. But the religion he'd put together was, and the religion really that Paul put together, because Paul was an international figure. He was comfortable in the global world of the Roman Empire. But what Paul put together around Jesus was a supernormal stimulus. And it evoked a supernormal response, a supernormal reflex. And the flying saucer ideas that, here we are on Earth, but there's this race that's above us that can save us, that's pushing at the same buttons. Hitler was pushing at the same buttons. The world, as we know, was about to end, and there's a new paradise, and the Germans will rule everything. So we are built to receive certain kind of stimuli. God knows how we got built that way. And when I went out in quest of the ecstatic of God, the gods inside of us, at the age of 13, I was looking for those supernormal responses in us, and for the supernormal stimuli that evoked them. And when you're doing art, when you're doing commentary, when you're doing comedy, you are hitting the buttons. You are creating supernormal stimuli. You are testing out jokes until they reach just the right shape. And you know what you can feel in the audience, what that shape is, and then you repeat that shape, knowing what its impact is going to be on the audience. I wrote a new book. It took me a long time to write all of my previous books, including How I Accidentally Started the 60s. And by the way, it isn't the same 1995 manuscript. I had 20 years of additional processing and was able to put a lot more meaning into the book. And hopefully it's still really funny. But I was able to write a book in 6 weeks. The first draft of 178,000 word book. And a normal book is 90,000 words. So this is almost twice the length of a normal book. And I was able to do it because I had told all the stories in the book. And I had felt out how the audiences responded to the stories. And I knew the words to use, and they were a well-worn path in my brain. So I simply put down on paper an oral vocabulary. But it's the audience who shapes you by giving you feedback. And eventually you perfect something so it's like Nico Tinbergen's Super Egg. I mean, Nico Tinbergen was eventually able to make eggs, super eggs, that had day glow on them, had polka dots on them, that were absurd, but they still had the ability, the way that flying saucer myths have the ability, to evoke this sense that there is a paradise beyond the world that we know.
Don't you think of supernormal stimulus that when you see, like a preacher on the pulpit that's screaming with confidence, when you see any of these things, like even when it comes to fake breasts, like you're seeing something like, you know what you want a woman to be good at bearing children, right? To have the right hip to waist ratio, that she's designed to breastfeed, she has large breasts.
Right.
Even though you know it's fake, it still hits whatever that genetic button is inside of your head.
Yep.
And the alien theme, the idea behind it, the archetype, is kind of like Space Daddy.
Right.
It's like, I know we're stupid, but just like this guy who's screaming on the pulpit has all the answers. Like, thank God someone has all the answers. Well, Space Daddy is for the atheists.
Right.
Space Daddy is for the people, you know what, I've listened to all these people down here. I think they're full of shit, but Space Daddy's going to help us out.
Yeah, well, that's the general idea.
Is that what it is?
Yes. And when you, as I said, when you fashion a joke, you're fashioning it to be a supernormal stimulus.
But Space Dad might be real somewhere because we're dealing with extraordinary numbers.
Okay, science person.
Okay.
I have to tell you that there's only one place in which we've ever discovered any evidence of life, and it's down here on Earth. So I'm a skeptic about life being anywhere.
Right.
Now, changing to a different scientific perspective, there's this thing that I call super simultaneity, super synchrony.
Mm-hmm.
And when the universe starts as a rapidly expanding sheet of nothing but space and time. It's space, time, and speed. That's all it is. And when it precipitates in quarks, which is unlikely, how can space, time, and speed become particles, quarks?
Right.
The fact is that there are only something like 16 different forms of those quarks, and there are a gazillion of identical copies of each quark everywhere, and they all sprang into existence at the same time. Fast forward a couple of million years. Galaxies all are pretty much the same, and all of them spring into existence pretty much at the same time, at least the first generation of galaxies. Stars ignite within those galaxies, all following pretty much the same principles. They're all just big gravity balls. Gravity's gravity balls all the way. That's planets, that's moons, all kinds of things. So there is this tendency for the universe to do the same damn thing at pretty much the same damn time, pretty much same damned everywhere in this cosmos. And we do know that there are biomolecules, carbon-based molecules, being formed in interstellar cold gas clouds, interstellar hot gas clouds, all kinds of unlikely places in the cosmos. But those are very simple little molecules. Even though we call them biomolecules, it simply means they've got carbon. Life depends on molecules. In the case of your genome, if we took just one cell, you wouldn't miss it. You have 100 trillion others. So we took just one cell from your body, and we took out the genome, it's actually the genome. So we took out the genome, and we stretched it out because it's all tangled up in the cell. It would be 3 feet long. So there's a big distance between a tiny little molecule of ammonia in an interstellar cloud and that huge, very complex, highly ordered, 3-foot-long molecule, or single molecule, that's your genome. And we haven't learned very much at all about how you go from the simple molecules to that incredibly complex molecules. The origin of life is still one of the big puzzles. But again, because there's super synchrony and super simultaneity all over the cosmos, pretty much the same thing happens at pretty much the same time, the odds are that there are millions of other planets that have life. Those are the odds. But I set all that aside because we don't have evidence of any life, and we've been looking since, okay, I'll tell you a story. It seems to have nothing to do with anything. But once upon a time, a manager gave me an act to work with. It was Earth, Wind, and Fire. And so I read all their lyrics. I read everything about them. I studied them like a Talmudic scholar. I always did. And finally, I got to their album covers. And when I got together with the leader of the band, Maurice White, for lunch, because I hadn't yet learned to set up my boundaries and tell people I'll only work with you if I can see you in your own environment for between 1 and 3 days. That wasn't quite at that point yet. I sat with with Maurice and said, Maurice, if I've got you right, you believe that approximately 11,000 years ago, people from another civilization, someplace else in our galaxy or beyond our galaxy, came to this Earth and brought us all of our technologies and left the messages of their technologies in the pyramids. Have I got that right? And Maurice smiled, and he said, yes. So I said, okay, there's this scientist from Cornell University, and he has just had a tremendous success with a science series on PBS. It's the most watched series PBS has ever had. And he's trying to put together an organization to find extraterrestrial intelligence. So if I introduce the two of you, would you be willing to do a benefit concert for him? Because right now he's struggling to get money together. And Maurice said yes. So we tracked down Carl Sagan's summer cottage telephone number, and I put together a conference call between Maurice White and, oh God, what's his name again? Billions and billions and billions of planets. Carl Sagan.
Yeah.
And as soon as Carl got wind of where Maurice was coming from, pseudoscience, the conversation was over, because Carl was already gambling too much on ideas that could get him totally laughed out of science. So it was unfortunate, but that was the early 1980s, probably about 1980.
Didn't he want to sit down with Maurice and sort of explain what we know so far?
No, he
was
couldn't
Maurice's
afford.
Stuff? Was Zechariah's Sitchin
It's
stuff?
all kinds of. It's everywhere.
Right.
You can find it all over the place.
But did he have like a source?
Not that I asked him. No,
Just
I was
was
too
like,
busy
he
trying to
just
put this thing together. And it was unfortunate. Yes, it would have been neat if the two of them had been able to sit down and talk.